Rosemary Truman. I'm the founder and CEO of the Center for Advancing Innovation. The Center for Advancing Innovation is a nonprofit. Basically, we're a catalyst for startups. It's kind of a trifecta model. We identify breakthrough technologies. We work with about 100 plus institutions around the United States who identify technologies that are commercially viable and that can make an impact across 100 plus institutions. And we match them with talent to create startups. And then the third leg of the stool is to create the architecture for capital. And so it's a trifecta. We match the technologies with the talent and the capital. And so we have launched 365 companies so far. We have launched them through a challenge model, and we have the largest virtual accelerator in the world that we know of, at least. So the teams will go through an 8-month accelerator process, and then they will come out and raise a lot of money. So our largest one has raised about 1.3 billion. And so we're very proud of the startups. We have about a 75% success rate. So normally, as you probably know, that startups fail 90% of the time in the first year. So we're very proud of our startups, and very grateful for you all coming here today. And you're going to see some amazing startups today. So we also have another company called Ignite Social Impact, because we know that we're trying to build the scaffolding, if you will, for the additional capital structures. And this is a platform where companies can raise up to $5 million. It's a crowd equity platform, and the intent is to democratize impact investing, and also focus on the companies that are only getting 3% of the capital. So, and that's going well. So that's coming along very well. We have been fortunate to receive several different awards from the Obama White House, the Government Accountability Office, 2 of those, Federal Laboratory Consortium, and so we're fortunate for that. So I just wanted to give a little bit of an introduction. And the purpose of today is to kind of create illustrate the ability to advance technologies, advance startups as well, because our challenges are two-way streets. There are startups that exist that are trailblazing, and then also create new startups from scratch through a challenge model. So we use a challenge model. We're in our 9th challenge. One was supported, for example, by the Walton family, Alice Walton, and the Silicon Valley Community Foundation through Sherry Sobrato, who's right there, and Impact Assets. And so she's going to talk a lot about the significant trailblazing she has done. So that's it for just a brief introduction. Again, the focus of this discussion or this meeting is advancing technologies and talking about building the architecture, if you will, for capital raising for startups. And then you're going to see the evidence of all those wonderful startups that are going to pitch that have really done miraculous work. So, and I want to thank Pozzanelli for everything, and Pete in particular for allowing us to use your space and being so generous.
Yeah,
So,
my pleasure.
thank you.
My pleasure. So I don't know if I need to stand. The camera gets a little funny, but again, I'm Peter Thurlow. I'm a partner at Pozzanelli Law Firm. I've been practicing intellectual property and patent law for about 25 years. Was at a big firm, Jones Day Law Firm, and we used to buy a lot of companies, and that's I was more focused on that. 6 years ago, I joined Pozzanelli. I'm on the startup side, so probably outside general counsel, outside IP counsel to about 30 companies. I work with plenty of big businesses as well. Mount Sinai is a few blocks away. I have a lot of spin-outs from universities and doctors, orthopedic surgeons, spine surgeons, many others that get the great opportunity to work with. And then Pozzanelli overall, we have 950 attorneys, 21 U.S. offices, now going to 22. We're going to open up an office in Salt Lake City. It's a general practice law firm, but we have 175 people that I can pull in and out of deals in the IP area. And then I do a lot of everything that Rosemary was saying. And by the way, we go back 4 or 5 years, been friends, and get the chance to see each other every now and then, which is always nice.
Yes.
So we're in the same business where I'm focused more on the legal side, of course, but advancing technologies and capital raising. When I got into the startup space around 5 or 6 years ago, I quickly realized that all the startups need funding. So I started hosting through a great man, Arthur Bavalis, that Wendy Diamond over there knows, and become a dear friend of mine, these family office investor events. So a lot of times I try to have one coming up on Thursday, another one coming up in early September, and I try to match startups and founders with capital. We do that through family offices. We also do it with VCs and private equity, and then, of course, lots of grants and everything. So I've been doing so much of this that this fall, I used to be in the military, so I'll be joining DARPA as what they call a special government employee to focus on intellectual property, commercialization, then these national security issues that you can, for those that have worked with DARPA, those kind of things. A lot of AI, a lot of blockchain, a lot of things going on in the world that we've read about in the paper, and it's exciting stuff. But here to help today, excited. I think Leonard said he's going to be learning a lot by just listening. I probably get several pitch decks a week and talk to investors, had 3 investor calls this morning alone. Just always interested in who's doing what, whether it's blockchain, AI. I chair the Med Device Group, so as I get older and I continue to play basketball, I'm going to need a lot more of these solutions. I'm hoping and I pray I don't blow out my Achilles, but anyway, so I always like to stay ahead of things. A lot of exciting things in stem cells and other things. That's very, very cool. So welcome. Look forward to today's discussion. I'll be in and out. And Rosemary, anything I could do for you, I'm always happy to do it. And looking forward to an exciting program.
Thank you so much. Okay. So Sherry Sobrato, you and I are going to chat next. We're going to be talking about Sherry's first. Sherry, could you give a little introduction?
Yeah, sure. I'm just really sorry that I can't be there in person, but we're here to talk a little bit today about a source of capital. I know everybody wants to raise money, and maybe a source of capital you haven't thought about is philanthropic capital. And you might be thinking to yourself, wait a minute, I'm not a charity. Why would I want to talk to philanthropists? I'm not a nonprofit, I'm a business. But if you're a social purpose business, and I would highly encourage you to balance your raise or even target your raise by using philanthropic capital, which is money that either foundations or high net worth individuals, family offices have to invest in promising startup companies with a social purpose, and that's called impact investing. And so I'm going to talk to you today some terms that you may not know, or you may know, because I really don't know how many of you have considered using philanthropic capital to help complete your raise, but that's what I'm going to be talking about. I can give you a little history about my own impact investing. And then we'll have plenty of time for either questions or from you or from Rosemary at the end. Is that enough of an introduction for now, Rosemary?
Yeah, absolutely. That's great.
Okay, great. So do you want me just to continue with kind of who I am and?
Yes, please.
How I got involved? Okay. So I'm Sherry Sobrato Brisen, and I have 25 years experience with my family of origin. My parents' family have started a family foundation over 25 years ago, which is a place-based, meaning we mostly fund in Silicon Valley, and we're mostly grantors. But the world has changed, and there's a lot of different ways that philanthropists now can participate in work with for-profit companies. And I kind of started that trend for my family. My husband and I have a separate organization for which we do grant making and also impact investing. And that's we're co-founders of Philanthropies, which isn't our own private family foundation, but it's a series of DAFs, which I'll explain what those are, which is at our local community foundation, which is Silicon Valley Community Foundation, and also a DAF at Impact Assets, which is also local to us in the San Francisco area that does impact investing, which is using philanthropic capital to make investments in for-profit companies. So I think probably best if I start with terms, like what is philanthropic capital? And that's doing good by investing in for-profit companies, using money that would otherwise be granted. Okay, so this is what we call philanthropic capital, and where people keep this philanthropic capital a lot of times is either in their own private family foundations, or it's a lot of high net worth individuals, they actually keep it in what we, on the inside of us, what's called like a philanthropic bank. And that could be, your philanthropic bank could be your wealth management organization, like a UBS or Smith, or any of those types, Fidelity, places like that. So like your bank, or it could be at a community foundation, which there are community foundations all over the country. But basically that's when you have access to, well, when you have a liquidity event, or you've sold stock, or whatever it is, and you take the tax write-off in the year that the event happens. But that doesn't mean you have to give it all away in that year. So you kind of park it and then look for opportunities to give it away or invest it. So that basically is what we call a donor advised fund that can be held in other kinds of spaces. But the simplest way to explain it is it's a bunch of parked philanthropy money that's looking for a good cause, whether it's a grant making or an investment opportunity. And the other term that I think is really important that everybody understands is continuum of capital. And so people that are in the position like I am, where we're trying to deploy capital in a good way, some of which we call donated money, which is this philanthropic capital, meaning we took it right off, but we haven't given it away or invested it yet. So the continuum capital really means like you can either grant it, or you can say loan it with the expectation of getting that loan returned and recycling it to loan it again to another nonprofit. That is one type of an impact investment, where it's not invested in a for-profit company, it's loaned to a nonprofit. You can do things that are called PRIs or MRIs, which are generally, but not always, terms that we use when you invest in a for-profit company. So those would be some terms that you might hear as you consider this, as you capitalize your companies. And just so you know the difference, a PRI basically is a impact first investment, meaning maybe we're willing to give up some financial return because we love the mission. And an MRI is a mission related investment. That's where philanthropists who are doing this type of investing in for-profits actually expect a return that is market driven, so a higher return. So those are just, so it's a whole continuum of capital, because philanthropists have different opinions about whether they just want a grant, or if they want a grant plus get that money back to reinvest it in a recycled sort of way, or an evergreen way is another term. But how this applies to you guys sitting in the room is one, is there are philanthropists out there and they can do it, give grants to for-profits, just a straight grant, they never expect to get it back. And we call that non-dilutive financing. Now, these are your best friends, right? Where you can actually get money, but not give up any equity. So for very, very early stage and promising companies where the philanthropist might want to participate in a later stage round, like an impact investment, where they will get some kind of return, some kind of stock. These are really your best friends, right? Because they'll give you the money up front with no expectation of return. So that's one type of where they can start, and then all the other ones that I described. So I think it would be helpful to make this a little more concrete by telling you a little bit about my experience as a impact investor. And so we're going to go way back in time, like about 40 years in time, when I was just getting out of college, and there was a term back then called SRI, socially responsible investing. And I had a tiny bit of investment capital from my grandfather who had passed. And I sought out companies that were not doing anything bad. So I screened a small investment portfolio that I had for companies that not necessarily were doing good, but that were not doing anything bad, clean companies. And back then there were also funds that I could invest in, which, you know, as I got more capital, I did, like Working Out Assets or Calvert, which were funds, you know, targeted towards companies that were not doing bad things. And then there was a whole nother way of impact investing, which was, you know, venture funds like Uprising or Better Ventures or Capria, or I can mention a whole bunch that I invested in, but these were companies that sought out companies just like maybe some of your companies that were actually having impact and doing good, whether it was giving opportunities to people of color, whether it was women-led organizations, whether it was a theme like healthcare or the environment or other types of what we call social enterprises, you know, that offered early stage investing or direct investing opportunities in these emerging social enterprises. So I did some of that. So that's kind of my early background. And then I sort of kind of stepped it up one step further. And I've also started funds that are just directly into my areas of interest. There's an organization called Catalog Impact Fund, and we have 46 early stage companies addressing unmet medical needs, whether they're therapeutics or diagnostics companies or services. And I've also launched, and then I've also used Benefunder, which is another organization that helps philanthropists like me place their capital in both grants and for-profit companies. And we did we looked at companies that were specifically looking at COVID solutions. So we have for-profit companies, and then on the donor side, we looked at the most innovative research being done in the area of COVID. So that's what I mean by continuum of capital, is that there's so many opportunities for us philanthropists to deploy philanthropic capital, depending on our level of risk tolerance or how we want to do it. So I would imagine you're all thinking, okay, this is the best news I've ever heard. There's all these philanthropists out there, you know, how do we get to them? And that's slightly trickier, but I'm going to give you a little advice on how to do that. And one is through impact investing networks, where organizations are like-minded in terms of wanting to work with social enterprises and wanting to find them capital. For example, like Rosemary Truman's Center for Advancing Innovation. I mean, that's their mission, is to help people like me and my family and other family offices and philanthropists place their capital. And so that's great that you're all here, because that is the best strategy. Another group, if you don't know them, is called One World Training. And One World Training, and they offer the same sort of services in a slightly different way, but they put companies in front of impact investors. So does Impact Assets and other kinds of impact investment demo days. Those are good organizations to just start searching on the internet and just contact them. There's other organizations, you'll love this. They're called Gin and Tonic. I'm serious. They were started by friends, and one thought it was funny to call one gin with 2 N's, and the other one is called tonic with 2 I's. And these are, you know, philanthropist support groups, for lack of a better word. I mean, they're groups where we all get together and we share their dear flow. So the best way to kind of get into these is just make friends. I mean, what I can tell you that you can't do is call up your local community foundation and say, could you please introduce me to all your donors that are interested in my space? Because they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So short of that, it's up to you to try and figure out what are other ways where these people are coming together? And believe it or not, places like, CAI and One World and other impact investment demo days, they are looking for companies, perhaps like yourselves, to put you in front of investors, perhaps somebody like me. So that's probably the best way, is to really do a landscape, figure out who's in your local area, and ask your friends if they are in a position like I am. Let them know about your needs for capital, and do they know any philanthropists? Even if the philanthropists aren't doing impact investing yet, you could possibly be their first impact investment. And maybe just having a meeting with people who have traditionally only given grants and talk to them about the opportunity, maybe starting a grant with your company that could turn into some type of an impact investment for them is a good place to start. So I'm going to stop there and see what questions, Rosemary, you have for me, or the audience has for me, and then we'll do a little wrap up at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sherry, thank you for the overview of some of the capital architecture, which I think a lot of people don't know about. And you've done some incredible trailblazing, if you will, in that space. And we've been fortunate. So Sherry's my girlfriend too. So she and I have worked on 2 challenges together. She's been very supportive. A brain tumor challenge and the children's, the Innovate Children's Health Challenge. And very generous, and we've launched about almost 40 companies out of those 2 challenges, which are thriving. So part of what we've done in those challenges is as I mentioned before, we've advanced technologies advanced the technologies, wrapping the talent around them, and then connecting them with capital. And then in addition, we've sourced companies that are in that area, and they thrive because they go through our accelerator program, and there's a little bit of prize money at the end. So I mean, we get thousands of people that come into the challenges, and so we get to source a lot of talent, and then we put a lot of mentors around them, and accelerator points around them. And so I would like to hear your perspective around launching companies through the challenge model.
Okay, that's easy. If I had to dream, I would launch a giant X Prize, but I don't have that kind of money yet. But it's like able to choose. The way it was explained to me initially on was with your Avon Breast Cancer Challenge. I mean, these are, this is a company that was very interested in not just donating, but actually launching companies for solutions around breast cancer. And I thought, no, wait a minute, I've had cancer too. Could I really do this around brain tumors, which type of cancer I have? So that's how that challenge came out. So to me, it was a huge opportunity to be able to make an impact without having to organize anything, right? Because you have the challenge, you have that access to the inventions. You launch the challenge, you bring in the investors, you put together the teams, you eliminate, all the riffraff that's not going to make it. You put the mentors with the teams. I mean, it's just like a miracle, to be honest with you. So that was great. So then, my other big thing was children's health. And I'm fortunate that we had this great first children's health challenge, and now we're working on our second children's health challenge, because it's a way, I guess I've always been a secret entrepreneur at heart, and I'm not going to launch all these companies myself nor run them, but it's a way to participate in a dream of mine in a very real way. And it's obvious, like any kind of very early stage investing, not all companies are going to do well, and that's obvious, but the ones that do are going to be very, very rewarding. And the jury's out, right? Because it hasn't been long enough for any of these companies to really hit or not yet. But for me, as a smaller philanthropist, I can't participate in some of the very large stage investment capital companies. I just don't have the philanthropic resources to do that, or the funds to do that, and to be able to take what I consider a small donation and launch a challenge that then has its own to continue to go out and raise money on their own. because they're taught how to do it, is really wonderful. So thank you.
And one of the other things that I think that was really great through the challenges is that, oh, by the way, we're nicknamed the Tinder for Startups and Nature magazine. So I never thought I was going to be a matchmaker, but apparently I am now. So we put a lot of mentors around the groups to make them a fully fledged team. And I can talk more about that if anyone has an interest after this, because there's lots of ways we do it. But we partnered also with the NIH and with the Brain Tumor Charity Foundation. So those partnerships also came through. And of course, we're already partnered with about 150 institutions. So by way of our partnership, you know, there's a network effect that comes into play. So I had to put my glasses back on.
Okay.
So I would actually invite, we have probably room for two. Well, I would actually like you to share like one example of your investment experience. Maybe impact.
Well, I think I think one of the things I'm most excited about.
The Ignite Social Impact.
Pardon?
Maybe the Ignite Social Impact one. The first
Oh, you want me to talk about that?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Oh, okay. So, so one thing is, I think it's important that, I mean, I was fortunate enough to meet Rosemary, but everybody is not going to be able to meet her. And I think it's important to have a digital platform in which organizations can meet philanthropists and other impact investors. We're not always philanthropists. There's plenty of people that just take money out of their bank account and do impact investing. So they feel good about the investments that they're making. They have a kind of double bottom line, so to speak. And these type of investors, you know, some of them are accredited investors, which have tons of money and are used to talking to people about term sheets and all of that. And some of them are people that have less capital to invest. But if you source in a crowdsourcing sort of way, a bunch of individuals that are like-minded and like-hearted to be able to participate in companies that they care about, which is really what the Ignite platform does. It's a huge opportunity, I think, to, as Rosemary says, democratize impact investing. So it's just not the family offices and high net worth individuals that are doing it, but everybody can participate. So when Rosemary came with me with this idea, I said, okay, that's a perfect impact investment for me.
And so anyone can invest $100 to that the company can invest. The companies can raise up to $5 million on the platform, but they have to be impact oriented. We have a strong due diligence model around that. We have, I think we have time for one question or two. So if anyone has a question or two for Sherry.
Sherry, thank you for all you're doing. Just curious, since I work with so many family office investors, what numbers are you talking about? Is it like 50,000 for these challenges? And because I do work with a lot of startups that they win these competitions and challenges, and that money is very helpful, non-dilutive, all the things that you mentioned. But does it vary with the challenge that you do? I mean, the brain tumor challenge you did mention sounds amazing, and we'd love to hear more.
So let's clarify the question, because there's an investment in the challenge,
Okay.
and then that's different. That's operating the challenge, and then there's the actual investment in the companies.
Okay.
So you're asking about the investment in the companies?
Yeah, I mean, the dollars matter, whether it's 25 or 25K or more. I'm just kind of curious how I can share this information with the investment community and let them know what you're doing.
Well,
I can share that.
I can briefly, you know, this is really more of a question for Rosemary, but, you know, obviously with the training, all the acceleration of the companies and everything else, you know, say a challenge is operationally run for between what, Rosemary, like 1.2 and 1.5 million, you know, and that's to go over to hundreds of inventions, to then pare it down, to then build the companies and all of that. So for me personally, what I did is gave a donation, not for the we put together, like she said, the National Institute of Health or the Brain Tumor Society, or we're doing a second Children's Health Challenge, and we're putting together, different either companies or foundations that are interested in this, bettering children's health generally. And so in other words, it doesn't have to be one philanthropist. It could be a combination. And then, for me personally, I did not take any positions in the companies that were launched. I did it as a philanthropist. However, there could be a model where people want to have a percent of the companies that come out, and that's really more a Rosemary question.
Okay.
Yeah, so Children's
For me,
National,
it's just a straight donation. It was the concept that I liked. And then, of course, as these companies mature, well, there'll be opportunities to do impact investing in the
Right.
individual companies that emerge. That's between me and the companies and everything else as the best.
so what we do on average, we have demo days all throughout our challenges. And so on average, they raise about anywhere from 20,000 to 600,000 in non-dilutive funding by the end of the challenge.
Nice.
And then we do throughout the challenge, we do demo days, and there's 100 to 500 people, investors that come to the demo days. They're virtual in nature. We've developed a network of those. And then in addition to that, we have an investor forum at the very end. And on average, all the companies are 15 to 25 companies will raise up to $5 million, but those are, that's dilutive funding.
Yeah,
So
that's diluted.
yeah, that's dilutive. And what we do is during the course of the challenge, they have company building exercises, and the company building, the accelerator consists of like a mini MBA. There are
Okay.
about 40 classes of company building exercises, and several times they have to apply for funding and things of that nature. So we work with them on those things, and we hook them up with mentors that can also make introductions. And those mentors, eventually, they actually get equity usually in the companies if they're good mentors. 90% of the time they do get equity because
Something.
they're good mentors.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Sherry.
Thank you. I'm going to stay and just listen. That's okay for a little bit.
Hey, you're very busy, so thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay. So on the agenda, we have a few speakers, and I had an idea that would like to for a break in between the speakers. We could do a round robin, just to have like one sentence to introduce yourself, so that everybody knows who everybody is. And so I will start over there, gentlemen.
Me?
Yes.
Hi everyone, my name is Yusuf. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Life. Life is a same next day delivery provider working with retailers, 3PLs, we deliver orders. They want to say our cost that is lower than the UPS 5 to 7 days.
Yeah, no, in 3 years.
Thank you.
Thanks. That's me.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm managing a family office. I'm seeking investment nations.
Hi, what's your name?
David.
Okay, thank you, David. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Heather McGee. I'm a partner and chief operating officer at Bennington Asset Management. We build financial products on the liquid and private side. And we are also, so we're raising money and we're investing money.
Hi, my name is Mike Pham. I'm a GBU data scientist. I'm working on the data GBU.
Thank you. Welcome.
I'm Gary. Myself, we're a launch pad for Web3, so blockchain companies.
And we're raising money. I'm Maria. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Halo Technologies, and here is a co-founder and CEO.
Could you repeat your name?
Marina Ramash.
Marina. Thank you,
Yes.
Marina.
So nice to see you.
Thank you.
Hi. Hi there. I'm Mel. I'm representing Filter Baby. I am probably one of the best marketers you'll ever meet.
Awesome.
Yes.
That's good to know.
I've got a lot of really super successful go-to-market strategies for several Fortune 500 companies. And we're here to discuss Filter Baby, and this is our founder, Stacy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stacy. I'm the founder of Filter Baby, and we're a biotechnology company. I don't want to say too much because we're presenting, but we're here to spread awareness, connect with everyone here, and we are raising money.
And she's gonna give everybody a coupon to get a free Filter Baby. This is gonna improve your complexion dramatically. Sorry. She's a friend too.
Oh, so I'm James Walker, work for a family office.
Very welcome.
I'm Ashraf Gad, I'm a senior cloud engineer for Bank of New York in daytime. I'm run family office.
Oh, cool. So you just basically live in I had that with Goldman.
Hi there, I'm Lisa Morales Telebo, and I am a co-managing director and founder of Refashion Ventures, which is an early stage supply chain fund. We invest across data and AI, advanced materials, advanced manufacturing, and advanced logistics. And we are also. I'm Rana Weeks, I'm head of growth at C Impact, which is a platform connecting angel investors with social impact ventures. I have a personal passion to supporting female founders and initiatives that are promoting gender equity. But the fund is doing broader social impact. So I'm happy to see what's next.
You got a lot of females in here that are doing, that they're basically blazing trails and taking names.
It's a lot, private investor, just finished my third IPO this week.
Oh, congratulations. Awesome.
And I like disruptive technology, since disruptive technology was done on me for cancer from 9/11. Since October 2016, I was helped with the relationship with Zebra VR. I also helped with funding on your startups. Private startups. Thank you.
Thank you. Gentlemen, we have a little bit of introductions.
Introductions.
This is a little.
Yeah,
No.
Samir Kari, pharma, 20 years, and
Excellent.
Yeah, my name is Anton, I represent Empower. Yeah, real estate, development company, we own properties in New York City, luxury hotels, medical facilities, and multi-family. And I invest into very advanced longevity center using next generation contrast-free MRI for discovery of breast cancer using very advanced AI technology. And my other position is I'm a director of a major European crypto exchange. The name is CoinChange, and we are going with this crypto exchange in Frankfurt, public.
Excellent.
Thanks, that's Mark Watson, MD at Good Associates International. We do biotech, farm, technology, special situations.
You're an investor? Thanks, Mike.
FDJ Capital.
Sorry, could you repeat your name?
Florencio de Jesus, and I do financial data analysis at various industries.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Henry Hunter, founder of Insider, which is a sales networking service that connects people who have a product or service to sell to the same target customer.
Robert Bird, founder of Three Desk Data. I help companies think about how to monetize to get an ROI out of it.
Hi everyone, my name is Vitali. I'm the founder of Bigpack Health. We work on AI drug-free platform for kids with prevention medicine and health. We're fundraising something.
Hi, Elisa, very nice to meet you.
How are you?
So I'm the director of open innovation for BioChain. We are focusing on neuroscience, and I'm collaborating with TechOpen for personalized and digital medicine solutions.
My name is Hafiza Mohammed. I'm the founder of Yumi Healthcare. We're a mental health company for children with federally funded insurance. We have a great technology that we use that allows us to reach millions of children because of the shortage when it comes to providers. I look forward to discussing my business later. We are fundraising. We only have 800,000 left in our round.
So put it in.
I'm Nadine Wilches, CEO and founder of Mind the Class. We're reducing the risk of mental health problems by working with the entire school system, and we're using data-informed decision-making to help influence those solutions. And we are fundraising.
Hi, my name is Seth Reno. I'm CEO of Arkeli Biopharma, and we're a company that is focused on treatment for infantile hemangioma. Infantile hemangioma is the leading cause of preventable childhood disfigurement. And so we are also fundraising and have a few $100,000 left in our seed round.
Hi, I'm Michael Nelson. I am the CEO of Intramune Therapeutics. Intramune is developing treatments for food allergy that are delivered while a patient brushes their teeth. So it's protection from accidental exposure, allows people to go out and live their lives without fear. And I will be presenting later, and I'll tell you all about my capitalizing.
I need that now.
My name is Andrew G. I'm a private investor and interested in new technologies and things that will help the planet.
I'm Leonard Braverman. I'm an advisor to CAI and been known Rosemary, what, for 7 years or 8 years
Yeah.
now? Long time.
And then, but he's very much too humble. Should elaborate. Okay, so basically, he also made all the strategies for the Army for many, many years, and went all around the world advising companies on how to engage with the government. So he's hooked in big time.
I'm also an SGU.
Oh, wow.
I've got two of them, one paid and one unpaid.
Yeah. We'll talk more. Yeah, did you work with DARPA?
Oh, I've worked with DARPA.
Oh, yeah.
I was a DARPA contractor back in Star Wars.
Very cool. That's great.
He doesn't age either.
Yeah.
My name is Mary Carvajal. I'm founder and CEO of a company called BIOS, and there's a lot of companies out there that are looking at health records, right? But we're not looking at health records in the very traditional way. We're looking at health records in a way that we not only aggregate data that exists out there, but we aggregate data that exists on you, right? So whether it's wearables, whether it's a mattress you sleep on, something you wear, whatever. So the doctor sees you for 5 minutes and that's it, right? So we want to be able to give him a view of you for maybe the last 5 months or 2 months, whatever they need, right? To try to stop misinterpretation of disease or mismanagement of disease, and actually use AI on the back end to kind of tell you a little bit about your health as well, and help us to live a healthier life. And we're doing that with from refugee camps or all the way up to Rodeo Drive, right? So it doesn't matter where you are in life, because every life matters. So we'll talk a bit about it. We'll have to speak here, and be excited to maybe we're also raising. So thank you. Thank you.
I'm Steve. I'm a web content producer and a podcast producer. I'm also a consultant for some startups that are looking to raise money. I go to things like this to try to make connections for them. And I'm also helping out a brain cancer nonprofit, so we should talk after this.
Yeah, we've launched about 20 companies in the brain tumor space.
I'm Michael Smolens. I have a startup in 2007. It was the first browser-based platform to enable video created in one language to be easily, quickly, and inexpensively made available in any other language. And the goal is to have all 8 billion people of the world have access to all knowledge in their native language. And we have thousands of professional translators. We work with Community Crowd, the TED Open Translation program we launched, or AI. And so the goal is that video is the way to tell stories, impact people, and make a difference. To help people tell their stories to the world in their native language, so everyone doesn't have to hear everything in English, because 6% of the planet speaks English as a native language. That's all. So everybody thinks that everyone speaks English, but Nelson Mandela said, when you speak to a man in a language he understands, you speak to his head. When you speak in his native language, you speak to his heart. So we think everybody should be speaking to everybody's heart.
Very nice.
Hello, Michael DeBenny. I'm a former banker who now owns a few different companies in industries and work with family offices and impact investors internationally.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brandon Hunter, and I am the founder of Root, a marketplace that we're building to drive more local consumers to small businesses that have been historically underfunded and underserved. We're currently crowdfunding. We went through the Scale Challenge, and I look forward to sharing our journey and what we've been doing, over the past few years as well. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Leon Chen, equities investor, and I'm looking to diversify into the asset class.
Oh, the last one. So I'm Sadhna Chitle. I'm here representing NYU's Technology Opportunities and Ventures Office, which is the office that handles all of the innovation at NYU. While I have not been a founder myself, I would be very proud to say that I have helped and many scientific founders, find their way along their journey to starting their companies. And I'll be talking a little bit later about what's happening at NYU.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Just a quick follow-up for those of you, if I don't get your card today, I have another family office event on Thursday, and then have some in early September, and I see a lot of friendly faces from people that have attended those meetings, so just wanted to put that plug out there.
We have another investor forum on September 23rd. It'll be in DC. And so at Children's National Walter Reed campus, it's brand new. There's J Labs.
I'll come down.
Oh, whoops. But
I'll come down.
oh,
Yeah,
good.
that'd be cool.
Yeah, we have a
Awesome.
so. So it's September 23rd. It's 2 days before my birthday. You can bring it back. Okay, so Pete, do you want to talk a little bit more about the firm?
No, I mean, I'm happy to, if anyone has any questions overall. I'm not sure how focused everyone is on IP. So Hannah and I have met each other before from NYU, a lot of spin outs. I think NYU gets around $2 billion in revenues. That's public. I'm not saying anything.
Yeah, no, you'll see the numbers.
Yeah. So, we have the great honor to work with university spin outs and others on their technology. I focus on the medical device and life sciences. To me, it's personally rewarding. Youngest of 4 kids, 19. She's got Crohn's. She takes Remicade, and she's got a great life because of the medicine she takes. So I'm a big fan of pharma and therapeutics and treatments that help people. So very blessed to work in a space where you see a real impact on people. But the firm is a general practice, and I think these days I get more involved in a corporate structure or venture capital money coming in, where we use safe agreements or convertible debt or other things to negotiate those things. But it's a fun business because I get to see everything from what you're doing with podcasts and how to do work on marketing things and how to get the word out for some companies, to partnering with Regeneron, J&J, or other companies on strategic opportunities and so on. But these days with the markets, capital is challenging, but I actually find a couple companies one got 6.5 million, the other got 3.5 million. So although the capital markets may be a little bit tighter because of the economy, I find family offices looking for alternative investments, and it's still if you have great technology, which apparently many of you do, I think it's still a great time to be in the business. So.
And I have to do a plug, because Pete is a great guy.
Well,
and
thank you very
also
much.
extremely talented with his IP knowledge and strategy around it.
Yeah.
And NYU, I have to do a plug because
Yeah.
we've been we worked with the Kauffman Foundation, and I don't judge me. We wanted to look at the value at stake of the research enterprise in the United States. So we found that if you could commercialize 6% more inventions and 90% failure rate, you could make a $1.5 trillion GDP impact on the U.S. economy. And we benchmarked every Wednesday and Sunday on how universities and federal labs are doing, and NYU came up #1 every time. So congratulations.
Yeah, I'll give you 2 quick examples. My wife normally begs me not to talk about patents or IP. But Moderna, back to an investment side, many people may know they got some initial funding from Dolly Parton. She gave them $1 million. I don't think she even got equity, hopefully after the success they had. But there's a lot of issues between the NIH and Moderna and some other companies with who actually owns the technology. So we like to get involved at the early stage because determine ownership is key at those early stages of the companies when the companies normally don't have money. So those are some of the things we try to work on. If anyone is a fan of Walter Isaacson, who's a prolific writer, especially in the science area, he wrote a great book on CRISPR technology, and Dr. Jennifer Doudna that got the Nobel Prize. You know, that book actually may be the only book in history that that actually has a chapter on patent law and intellectual property, because the invention normally does not happen overnight. It's normally over a period of years through research and development. So there's billion-dollar litigation cases on who's the ownership of the CRISPR gene editing technology that's going to be going on for years and years. So that's where it gets exciting for me. If you get it right initially, you avoid headaches later on. But hopefully that wasn't too bad.
I think this book is, you know, for a complex book, it's very readable.
Yeah, he's. I had the pleasure to meet him. And he's just a brilliant guy. American history that I'm a fan of. He's a fan of. He's one of the more brilliant guys. You know, and he also wrote the book that I'm sure many of you know on Steve Jobs, who was, you know, just amazing individual too. So I recommend those books if you can. I read the book on Einstein. I couldn't understand it. Sorry, it lost me. So I tried.
Gentlemen, would you like to introduce
Wait
yourself?
till the move.
Is that already? You came in, did you introduce
I
yourself?
think we got everybody.
did.
Yeah, we got Mark.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry about
So
that.
understated. You missed it.
Sorry.
You're an
I
investor.
apologize. I saw some people come in and out, and I think it's just.
I'm Mark Watson, I do research.
Okay, Mark Watson, okay, sorry about that.
Has to be nice.
It sounds great.
So I would like to have Lisa stand up and give an introduction. She is a genius in supply chain and also really unique approaches to fixing the supply chain. So
Thank you. Yeah, so my background is 27 years in tech by way of Carnegie Mellon design degree, which I quickly applied to business, and design thinking has turned into the new MBA, which lucky for me, that was my initial degree. Couldn't get out of there without a little C++. So again, lucked into that. My entire career has been focused on supply chain because I was fortunate enough to work out in Silicon Valley during the first .com boom for a Procter & Gamble company that was called Reflect.com. We were spun out of P&G to see if we could innovate and create the first ever mass customization, personalization, and on-demand one-of-one micro manufacturing, all made in the USA. And we did. It was across cosmetics, skincare, hair care, and fine fragrance, all the way back in 1999. That certainly set my entire career trajectory down a path that gave me a 22-year head start on the rest of the world, just now realizing all of these variables are possible. And I realized that it is the solution for us to really have an agile, resilient, redundant, sustainable, and circular supply chain. I have been building this fund, Green Fashion Ventures, with my partner and co-founder, Brian Longaway. He has almost 20 years in finance, so I'm the operator, he's the finance muscle. And we have done, through a rolling fund, a new AngelList vehicle. We launched our first fund last year, and in 1 year we've done 21 deals. We have massive.
Congratulations.
Thank you. For a first time fund manager, it was really exciting for me personally, because I'm also on a newly formed government funded commission called the Brookings Commission that's addressing the 3% of capital that goes to people that look like me, brown people and women in the United States. We're working to help draft legislation to address this massive shortcoming in seeing the value of diversity beyond checkboxes. It really comes down to diversity is the lens that you see the world through, what matters to you, what life experiences have created your focus. And we can it's no longer viable to have a single lens building and defining everything that's of value in our world. So it's really exciting to me as a woman of color, to be able to deploy capital into areas that I find really important and of interest. The lens that I happen to see the world through is fashion supply chain. why I'm wearing my Yoshi Yamamoto cozy onesie. I have been obsessed with fashion since I was a little girl, and my grandmother was a seamstress who moved from Puerto Rico to New York with 2 little kids in tow and her husband away in the military. This industry is exploitative and extractive of people that look like me, brown women around the world. What I've realized is after going through Techstars in 2012, there were no VCs that really understood the detailed nuances and opportunities sitting there in this $3 trillion global market, fashion.
And how much they throw away? Like, what did you say, $6 billion?
So currently, of the $3 trillion global opportunity, there may be currently investing, or back in 2014, about 250 billion into front-end consumer-facing fashion experiences, things that were existing patterns they can match to, like subscription boxes or online rental, things like that, e-commerce. But what I realized after having built my own fashion tech company and gone through Techstars, talking to VCs and having them say really silly things to me, for a contextual search engine, for a search engine, they were saying, you should buy some inventory, like that nasty gown. And I was like, wait, are you just blind to what I'm actually showing you because it's fashion on the screen? If you tell Google to buy inventory, it just was insane and infuriating. So I founded the first fashion tech accelerator here in New York City in 2014, the New York Fashion Tech Lab, partnering with the major brands and retailers, Macy's, J.Crew, Kate Spade, Ralph Lauren, Lee & Fung, Beauty, LVMH, etc. And I thought, you're welcome, industry. Mic drop, I solved it. You can now select the companies that will add the most value to your bottom line. And what I've realized talking behind closed doors to the C-suite of these companies for the better part of the year is that they were not remotely incentivized to do the hard things. They couldn't care less if their company was the reason the planet burned to the ground in 5 years or 10 years. They also didn't care if their company went under because they were jumping jobs every 2 to 3. And I got angry. So I left after the first cohort and said, you know what, you're right to be disruptive. Studied the apparel supply chain for a year, came up with my thesis for localization. And that is the lens that I'm looking at supply chain through, because supply chain and the climate crisis are opposite sides of the same coin.
Can you explain the localization component?
Yeah, sure. So localization is, in a nutshell, reshoring, but more specifically, having a localized infrastructure that is a demand chain, on-demand production, a distributed collaborative network of phone facilities with shared data for real-time capacity load bearing, producing one-of-one products, much like I did in '99 with P&G. And then your circular infrastructure, in this case textiles for fashion, can also be localized. We produce 4 times the textile waste of any other country in the world, and we used to ship it overseas. Countries are no longer taking it. So we have to think of something to do with our own textiles. On top of that, fashion is the reason that every single one of you is currently ingesting a credit card's worth of microplastics every week. And
You mean ingesting? So
it's in our food streams,
Yeah.
it's in our, we're breathing it in every time we walk on poly carpets, every time you wear polyester, every time you wash it, it runs into our oceans, it rains down on everything. They've even found microplastics in your arteries, in umbilical cords, in the womb. If we can't get rid of cholesterol, how are we going to get rid of these microplastics in our bodies? So this system has to be refashioned, not only for profits. Obviously, everyone's like, oh no, Target didn't have any inventory to sell for the last 2 quarters because it landed at the end of the season and it was instantly marked down 90% off. That's tragic, but what's more tragic is that there's no business to be done on a dead planet. And we're investing in the opportunities that will refashion this global infrastructure.
Thank you. One question. Does anyone want to ask a question?
Or here.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Lisa.
I have a question. So you both have an enterprise and a fund.
Yes.
Or
So-
the fund is the enterprise.
No, so We have actually 3 organizations. We started with a global community, the Worldwide Supply Chain Federation, and that was because we wanted to hang out with other supply chain nerds because supply chain can't exist in a vacuum. We launched that in 2017, and within our first event, there was 150 people, standing room only, and so so we had people reaching out to us from around the world after our very first event, asking, how do we get involved? How do we tap into this network? We realized quickly that we needed to turn it into a global network of supply chain communities that could tap into New York's infrastructure, because every company in the world wants to do business with companies in New York. So that's grown to 4,400 members since 2017, and about 40,000 in our global network of builders and buyers. 1 degree separation from me and Brian of startup founders and C-suite executives. Then we built the fund, and actually in 2019, one of the largest retailers in the world for fashion reached out to me and said, hey, I've heard you talking about localization. Can you just do it for us? And I was like,
yes.
Why do you, yes, yeah, why do you need me, first of all? But yes, so I couldn't say no to them and their board. Pulled together a team to work on it as a consulting project and worked with them from October of 2019 to March 18th, 2020, 2 days before the world went with COVID. So it went nowhere. I turned to my team that had now been working on this localization with me for a long time and said, who wants to help US factories not go out of business? So we shifted to helping them get PPE orders, tech packs, raw material, procurement, vetting, all of the craziness that was going on at that time. And through that, IBM reached out to me, Jor, the largest wholesale platform in fashion retail, and Gerber Technology. Gerber is the one that said, we have a micro factory. Your vision is our vision. Gerber is the largest producer of hardware and software for apparel, soft goods, and furniture manufacturing here in the US. And we saw the micro factory, realized it needed a business model, and we worked on it with them for the past 2.5 years. So a year ago, a pre-seed investor reached out to me and said, hey, saw what you're working on. Do you need some funding? And so we've started a separate operating company that is a sister company to these other orgs, because it's all supply chain. Gives us an opportunity to kick the tires on and vet deals in a way that no other fund really can. And our partners, which consist of the largest existing factories and raw materials and advanced manufacturing facilities in the US, help us with diligence.
Excellent, thank you. Next up, Robert Berg. I've worked with Robert Berg for more than 20 years.
So I'm here to talk about data monetization, humanity, and teamwork. And I know these are 3 concepts that aren't necessarily put together, but I'm hopefully at the end of this conversation, you're going to realize why they need to put together. So Rosemary and I went around and have done 2 massive transformations, 2 of the biggest transformations that are going on in the world at the time. Yeah. And companies don't merge or don't get together, don't transform because of the data. When you think of data, data monetization is all about how you actually get an ROI from your data. And there's internal, right? Profit, brand extensions, new products, but there's also external, right? You actually create a new business unit and you actually access capital markets. Now, why is that important? Because people will tell you the IP is actually starting to create infrastructures to fund data. Data wasn't an intangible asset, wasn't fundable on its own. However, an act just happened just recently, which was the 3 US airlines received $20 billion on the power of their loyalty data alone, which is excess from their operations. What does that mean? That meant that they doubled their valuation overnight because the capital markets gave them $20 billion on like 30 to 40% of the total asset value. So when you put that out, they doubled their value and they received $20 billion over that. And that's a structure now that we can use and is being used around the world to help you actually capitalize. So you're not capitalizing on PP&E anymore. You can actually capitalize on intangible assets. which, by the way, if you look at the intangible asset value of many of the largest companies in the world, you realize that the intangible asset value is greater than their tangible asset value. They're getting value out of things that really weren't getting value before, and it's starting to come. So we're going to surf a little bit before in front of the line right there.
A quick point. So I did work with Congress on this, and they came out with a study that said intangible asset value is $5 trillion. So that's everything. Data is now especially last decade, to even just increasing that. Data is gold, data is king, say what you want, but we have a lot of deals just on the data, as you're saying.
Right. So the valuation of data monetization is fragmented. Right. There's so much data monetization going on right now that when you look at some of the valuations, they say, oh, it's growing at 20% year over year. And when I looked at the underlying data and said, well, how are you valuing that? They're saying because the people who are selling the machines and the your servers and the software for data monetization, that's going to be a 20% increase. And I'm like, going, wait a second, that's like telling me the value of gold that's being mined in the world by telling me how much gold extract machines are being sold. It's ridiculous, right? There is so much more value than being happened, and the actual capital markets are giving you that value, right? How is that also being manifested? Retail media channels, right? So now you're going to find out in the next 2 years that retailers, Walmart, Target, Costco, whoever, they're actually going to be worth more on their media channels than they are on running their operations. It's already occurring. There was a bid made for Rite Aid that actually gave them more money, valued them with more money for their retail, their loyalty data, and they have a small retail loyalty list. They have a small one, right? They have more value than their operations. Now, Rite Aid rejected it, and they're going to move on. Now, these are large examples. Let me give you some small examples, right? Data monetization is really a lack of creativity and imagination. People aren't data monetizing, not because it's not there, it's because they lack the creativity of doing something. I know things like, how does that happen? We're small. Well, actually, 10 years ago, someone came to me and said, what do I do with a database of IP that I can't get to? Right? So we brainstormed how we can monetize that data set. And Rosemary, really blood, sweat, and tears, right? Put together something that was available in the US markets, but no one actually had the creativity or imagination to actually do it. Rosemary did that. And now you're looking at something that came out of just an idea of how you monetize a certain set of data. And it had humanity to it. It's doing good. Because when people talk to you about monetizing data, they're going to say, oh, how are you using that data? Oh, I've got privacy issues. I got GDPR. I got CCPA. I can't do that. I got all these other stuff. Well, those are manageable. I'm telling you, that's a risk there. First of all, those are reasonable expectations for how you save your data, right? I am one who's saying that, yeah, you should follow every single one of those rules willingly. But because we know we're all capitalists here, right? That you know, right? So you need regulations around it. But they're reasonable regulations. So you just need to get yourself some good support. You can manage that risk. It is manageable. It's the unknown. Yes, it's not being really enforced locally. And so once people say, oh, once it gets enforced, I have a clear idea how to do it. No, you can actually manage that risk really by just following good common ground. And humanity actually helps because people are willing to give their data away if you're helping them. If they feel like you're helping them, they will actually willingly sign that data away. Okay, so now I've got consent. I tell you, I have monetized data, right? To pharma, all the big retailers. I was an IRI. I launched new solutions for information resources, big competitor of Nielsen. I created billions of dollars of new data products that were sold to pharma and all the big retailers and all the big CPG companies. And people were like, how are you getting prescription data? How are you getting that kind of? Because we would feed back information to those users so that they can manage their own health. And boy, they were just willing to go, fine, I'll give you every prescription. I'll give you all my doctor. I'll give you that stuff if you're going to help me manage my health. And you're going to help me. So when you help people, which CIA is there too, right? But people willingly actually do it. It's only when you actually violate that trust that you get it.
Just to jump in on Mary, what she mentioned before, wearable technology, it's a huge amount of, the data is really the issue. It's just not the device itself, it's the data gathering and using that over a period of time. There's a great deal of value. We have a whole group focused on the privacy issues related to the data, because as you mentioned, the GDPR and California, other states, you know, and I think technically it's difficult to separate the person from the data, even though a lot of people claim they can. But there's a lot of privacy issues around the data and Google and everybody, and you know.
Right, but the fact that if you're really working with large data, I'm just going off script a little bit, right?
Yeah.
You know, dealing with one person and trying to get to them is so wrong
Yeah.
on so many different levels. But if you're grouping together 50 or 100 people who have similar attributes with anonymizing them and then seeing how it actually affects them and then coming back and going after larger groups of people, right? That's good for, and you're not violating, right, their PII. So there are ways to get around that,
So,
really, rather than just going after them individually.
Sorry, but just for the group, could you explain what PII is?
Personally identified information,
Okay,
right?
all right.
So what's gonna happen is that people say, the laws, I think, believe written that anytime you possess PII, even though you may have acquired that information in a separate source, the minute you have it, I can now target you, right? Suddenly I know now it's you, right? I have to now protect all these rules. So GDPR is the European rules, CCPA is the California rules, and every state's gonna have their rules, and every country's gonna have their rules, right? So it's a massive quagmire. But the rules are actually pretty simple. And by the way, if you wrote them out, if you wrote out what they were, you'd say, yes, I want to do that. Yes, I want that done for me. So there's no reason why you don't do it. And oh, by the way, the cost of technology, the cost of the machinery, the cost of the hardware and software is so low right now, it actually is not going to cost you that much. It's a process and it's data governance.
Yeah.
You know, all that kind of stuff is really going to get yourself down a very easy path. It's fine. It's every business risk that you ever want, right? So anyway, you think about other examples, a small example. Think about what CIA was done. It started from scratch. Now look what it was using, right? Sort of like the data and how the data monetized. Another example is working with a healthcare company in Bangladesh. And during COVID, they created an app and a telehealth to actually start triaging their patients. They actually had their staff, 20% of their staff during that period of time had COVID. So they were having some severe staffing problems. And yet they grew by almost 100%. They increased revenues. They created better results for their clients, right? The patients who were coming on for the COVID. And they achieved a 90% patient satisfaction score when they were looking and they were just pile driving into finding a way to help COVID. That's unheard of. I mean, think about it again. A company with less staff used their data to actually triage and stuff. So basically what they did was they segmented at the top of the funnel everyone who came in. They quickly put them into a place that helped them get to what they needed, and then they were able to bring the solutions to those people based on the way they were being triaged. So I think almost every marketer at the top of the screen right now who wants to do that. You just need information to help you segment and then put them in there. Right now, we go to websites, we don't know who we are, and we're being sold something and marketed what is being told on the website, not to what my needs are. If you actually had a little bit of my need and what I did, and you were able to customize it, you wouldn't be looking at 2% response rate. You would be looking at a 1% click-through rate. You're talking about 50 or 60% type of reactions, which is transformation. The lack of imagination, the data's out there, just not willing to look at it and think about it. So humanity, though, you got to do good, because the minute everything is discoverable all the time, you get too big, people will discover what you're doing. So you better have a culture to do good and do well. You better drive it through with data governance. And you better have a culture to find it and weed it out. Because when you're helping people, actually people get behind you. But when you find out that you're actually not doing something that's really well, that's when that deck of cards starts to fall down. So you better use that data responsibly. Secondly, data to me is not the single source of truth. It may be the single source of truth starting point, but everyone has a different perspective. So, right? Everyone looks at data and sees a different story. So you need to have a really diverse group.
And you can make any story you want out of data.
Right? but of having a diverse team. And your diverse team is your business ecosystem. It is suppliers, it is business partners, it is your cooperators, right? The people you compete with, but also cooperate with out. It's, you know, your whole business ecosystem you should be able to find ways to partner and team with them, not partner, but team with them, right? To get your ideas of how they see certain situations. You will find you'll have actually more creative, more imaginative use of the data. And also that group actually tells you problems, tells you, oh, you're going in that direction, you got a major issue with this or with that. So it actually is really good problem solving and issue identification, and allows you to create paths that have really stronger. I know that people are saying, oh, Robert, you're not really going to be a capitalist. I went to Wharton. I worked on Al Dunlop jobs. I have fired more people than this whole room combined.
Oh, more than that. Yeah,
Right?
yeah, many.
Right? But actually, I do it really well. And I do it with a purpose. But you have to be a little bit, right, you know, in your business model, cut out the waste. Focus your business up and use the data to help you actually be creative and imaginative where you go. That's what I really want to say. It's like data monetization, humanity, help people, and team. They all come together now. Because if you don't do them together, really, you're not maximized. If you only have IT and engineering working on your data, you're doing something wrong. Right? So, you know, I can talk about the growth of data monetization. It's really growing. Like you look at all the statistics and you just pick them up. It is a growth engine almost every field. Healthcare, really, really big, right? Fashion and you know, and the CPG and retail space. Those are growing and they're tracked separately.
So how big is your company, Robert? And
Just me.
Just
Right?
you.
I
So you get involved in the deal sourcing kind of thing, or
I do.
the creative side?
Yeah, because I help them actually monetize. Like, you know, you kind of have access.
And you
to
bring in
people.
other people as you need to.
I work with a network of people and I pull them in
I see.
as I need to create sort of like these groups that I need to have. We should
Awesome.
use them. Yeah, so it's just a matter of.
Hi, that was really valuable information. Thank you for sharing. Can you give an example of a company that you worked with that tripled their valuation?
IBM. We've got $64 billion to their bottom line.
Or smaller companies itself, right?
Yeah.
You know, when you think about what Rosemary started with zero. Right? Think about what just happened after. So, you know, literally, we sat in Penn Station.
Yes, I know. I remember that.
And it's like, Robert, I just have access to this. What do I do? Right? And over a period of time, we started thinking about and created the startup challenge, right? I don't want to have the criteria, based on the criteria, which we said, okay, here's your path, right? I kind of think it's like more than triple.
Well, I remember we had like 11 trade secrets on that.
Right, and we started, right? So it really grew. Other types of things, so when you looked at IRI right now, right? IRI, when I joined, was under $1 billion, right? And during a period of time, I launched new solutions for IRI across all of their business units. And it just merged with NPD, which was a little bit under, but the whole total deal is $3.7 billion. So we actually moved from a company that was feeding information back to PepsiCo and to Walmart into a company that's doing business with Google, Facebook, and all of that. And once we got into the infrastructure of the internet and we're helping advertising and marketers with targeting particular people who have propensity or a known purchase behavior pattern behind them, right? That was when you were able to really take off on that business side. So that's a larger, those are things like doubling, almost tripling the value by.
Have you worked with hospitals, healthcare systems?
Yes. So as I said, I'm working with a healthcare company.
Can you give us some flavor?
I'm working with, so right now I'm trying to prep them to be able to help monetize their healthcare data.
So what kind of like what type of data do they have?
So they have a brick and click model. So they really try to do both merged hybrid model. They don't want to be totally click. They don't want to be totally brick.
Where do they get the data from?
From the patients.
These are hospitals that they have patients' data,
This is a clinic
pharmaceuticals.
and an app, right? So you've got an app that people put on their phones,
Okay.
and you've got a clinic that can actually see people. And it works in conjunction, so you can telehealth, or you can have people coming in, you can e-pharma, and so you can help people who don't have to come in to their jobs, right? As well as being able to monetize that data. But right now, I mean, to your point is that, okay, when you take a step towards data monetization, if you ever data monetize, you have to create what's known as a data trust, right? Because that's the way people want to monetize that data separately. Then you're going to get into all the different legal and accounting structures that allow you to hypothecate the data for capital funds. But if you want to keep it together, you can keep it together. It's just that there's fewer hybrid investors and funds that are going in. But when you separate them, man, now you get people who really want to invest in, telehealth. Got it. People who want to invest in bricks and, on healthcare. Got it, right? But together, it's a little bit challenging for them, as well as Bangladesh is a hard place to get money out of. Right, so we have to do structures in Singapore and other things in order to monetize that structure, but feed the money into Bangladesh and cycle it out. So there's some issues that you have with international stuff, but eminently manageable and doable is just the growth, and those are more of a because the restrictions on healthcare data is less in Bangladesh. You can do more creative stuff without having to build as much.
Who gets the money?
The company.
Yeah, why? Why does the patient get the money? It's the patient's data. So that I'm teasing you a little bit, Robert, because that's what BIOS is gonna do.
I have created systems which like ASCAP or BMI, where people participate in actually getting paid based on this data that they're
It's
providing.
about time, isn't it?
Right, but a lot of those places, right, and I'm actually doing one right now where they're getting substantial amounts of dollars from them, right? But the issue is just a matter of what are you're not going to fund their lifestyle. They're not going to make a living. They're not going to quit their jobs based on the money they're
But
getting.
wouldn't it be great if someone sitting in a refugee camp could actually make some money off their housing?
Yes.
I think there's a world coming in. We're gonna
Right,
see.
if you can
Many
see
people
that-
don't appreciate when you go into the hospital, you gotta sign all these consent forms. There's consent forms that says who owns your data.
Exactly.
Normally, it's the hospital system. That's why they're monetizing it. When they're in Bangladesh or other countries, that's a different, but everyone's just signing checkbox and say, do what you gotta do to me. So no one reads that stuff, and then who reads the fine print? Yeah. So that's a big deal, though. I mean, you may have seen something in the iPhone where they basically said, can you track the data, or can other companies use data? And a lot more people are saying no. And that's changed the paradigm for how Facebook and how these big companies are making money, because without the data, they can't do the tracking. So
I do think in the future, there will be funds that allocate a certain amount that gets like a dividend, goes back to the people in their data.
well, we hope so. Yeah, as Mary said, hope so, yeah. But there's lots of companies come to us and say, can you kind of manage the data, break it, and then we'll work with groups of people, the engineers, and then all the legal issues, because they're significant,
And I don't think you need large networks. You need representative samples to be able to provide data back to people. So once you have a network, you can just carve out a representative sample, and then suddenly what you can do with it expands.
Right.
So can I sorry, can I make a suggestion for the people who would like to speak with Robert? We're gonna take a 10-minute break, and we could, then everybody can pound on Robert.
Interesting.
I'm so sorry about that, Robert. We're friends, but that way you can get up and walk around, get some coffee and get some water. And I think we can talk about that topic forever. So very good.
I'm the founder of Filter Baby. My name is Shin. And we're a team of healthcare professionals, entrepreneurs, and PhD scientists with a mission to research and advance technologies related to tap water in order to improve the public skin's health and awareness. So being born into a family of 3 generations, I'm the 3rd generation Chinese medicine practitioner. And for the past 10 years, I've also built a SaaS software as a service medical billing company. So naturally, health, wellness, and tech is ingrained to my blood. So, and I also believe in everything to be as naturally as possible. Our initial product is a water filter, as you can see by the name, that you attach to your faucet for skincare. So usually when I say this, women's eyes lights up and the men's eyes are like, huh? But at the end of by the end of the presentation, I hope you'll realize and learn something. So that's our initial product. And by the end of this year, we are able to customize our water filter product. Imagine coming onto our site and enter your zip code, answer a few questions, take a photo of your skin in which our AI system is able to recognize the skin quality. So wrinkles, acne, dryness, and then we collect this data and feedback a customized water filter based on where you live and your skin conditions. So it is the era of customization. And by constantly collecting these sets of data, we're checking in to say how you're doing, maybe once a month. How is your skin condition? Has it improved during winter or summer seasons when the weather has changed? We could ask the consumers, are you experiencing more dryness? Maybe we can update your filter to have a more water softener. Do you want to upgrade to a more advanced filter? Here's a free trial that you can try out. Do you want to connect with a dermatologist if your skin condition has experienced a worsening condition? So with these pieces of data that we collect, we can get very creative. And that's not all the data that we're going to be dealing with. So we'll talk about it in a minute. So we began to build this product when I noticed a correlation between tap water quality and skin conditions. I myself have very dry, sensitive, thin skin, and like a quarter of the rest of America, people have skin conditions. After doing a deep dive into the American tap water system, we found several core problems with the existing tap water. So for example, the first one, the EPA that sets the federal standards for tap water, among the scientific community is considered to have lower standards, and it has not updated the tap water quality and regulations for many contaminants for over 50 years. So chemicals like PFAS, which there shows abundance of research in the science community, but the EPA still lacks speed and up-to-date information to push the legislation out. The second core problem is that chemicals are introduced into our tap water to disinfect as a biocide. So for example, at the last stage of your water disinfection, usually chlorine, chloramine, fluoride are introduced to disinfect and kill bacteria, viruses, and things like that. So if, for example, well, it's kind of like a double-edged sword. So if, for example, the city of New York determined there is an excess of coliform, which is a type of bacteria present in the tap water, and you do not want any of that in the tap water, they're going to add extra doses of chlorine into your tap water to kill the bacteria. So it's a double-edged sword because while you're killing biology, you're seeping actually chemicals into the tap water. And I, as a consumer, would like to know in real time if this is happening to me. And the third core problem is that, let's say your water is pristine, as great as it is. We live on actually old infrastructure in our homes, especially in cities. In New York City, a lot of the pipes are made of still like lead material. A lot of the infrastructure could have rust in them. And these are relatively unknown to the public. So even if you have pristine water, the pipes that carry this water to your home, to the restaurant that you're eating at, remains questionable. The fourth core problem is that there's an average of 50,000 cases of tap water violations each year. Now, most of these tap water violations are probably on a minor scale because there's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 levels of contamination. But I don't want to know last year if my tap water had some violations. Because usually what cities is required to do is they require to send the consumers a yearly report once a year to tell you the quality of your water. But I don't want to know last year what happened to my water. I want to know right now or within this month as quickly as possible. So there seems to be, oops. Sorry, excuse me. So there seems to be a lack of easily accessible and transparent information. This is not working. So there's the lack of transparent and easily accessible information. So imagine an app that you download that's connected to us, and you get information in real time or as soon as the information is released to the public about certain tap water conditions.
And while they're working on that, the reason why this is so important is that, for instance, take Newark, for example, between 2017 and 2019, the tap water showed lead levels that exceeded 15 parts per billion, the threshold above which the EPA requires for action to be taken. So that testing from January to June 2019 showed that lead levels were more than 3 times the EPA threshold. So what happens is you have all these acids, all these chemicals that are pumped into our water that is now coming into your homes. And the effects of that are harrowing, from your skincare to your gut health. It can really be something that we need to pay serious attention to, because water is something that we can't survive without. We drink it, we use it to bathe, we use it for our skin, and it's something that we do without thinking twice about what the consequences of what we're putting on our skin is. So aside from skin irritation, it can also increase your potential to various diseases. And are you guys good? We're good. Okay, perfect.
I have one question.
Sure.
There is a standard product from APA for 10 micrograms per liter for arsenic. And the APA is trying to achieve lower than that, because if you have anything in this level, it causes cancer. So the idea is to do the filtration system, which is a 0 microgram of arsenic. So how much is your filter?
Yeah, so we can get into the specifics a little bit later, if you don't mind. Okay, thank you. That's a great question. So for example, here are some quotes from the environmental working president, the EWG. The environmental agency has utterly failed, the EPA, which regulates our federal water, has utterly failed to address the PFAS with the seriousness this crisis demands. Here's another quote from the NRDC program health director. The problem is twofold. There's really not a cop beating on the enforcing side of our laws, and we're living on borrowed time to our ancient deteriorating water infrastructure.
Just to make a quick comment. If anyone's interested in this PFAS, there's a CBS Sunday morning news show. Jane Foley, who's on Sunday morning. It's quite frightening, this PFAS, so you may want to use that in your marketing. 3M, DuPont, all these companies, and this chemical does not break down through the process, so it's scary stuff.
Right, so I just sent in a sample from my tap water in New York to a lab, and this is a few of the results I got back. They have not gotten back to me of all the results, but as you can see, there are some health risk related that they assess that is currently present in the New York's tap water. So as a consumer, what does this mean to me? Well, it means, first of all, I like to know this information, and I like to access this information easily and in real time if possible. And second, what am I going to do with this piece of information? What kind of solution can you offer me? So as a wedge in the door, there are actually many water filtration companies out there that is concentrated in drinking water. So we're not there to play in that market. But the ocean is relatively blue in this market. We're the first dermatologically tested and approved water filter for skincare. You mount this to your faucet and it reduces chemicals and contaminants. It's got a chemical reduction property and a physical contaminants reduction property, and it reduces hardness in water. So the technical aspect isn't like anything out there on the market, and it's dermatologically approved for skincare.
So when you say dermatologically approved, what do you mean with that? Did it pass any trial?
Yeah, so good question. So we did a clinical study in Europe, and it was performed under the scope of a dermatologist. And we did the study for 2 weeks, and it was observed that there's an increase of moisture in your skin level. Even though the study was quite short and there was no education around this piece towards the people in the study. So they didn't get any marketing material. They didn't get any fancy packages, no education. 71% will report that they'll never go back using tap water. And 63% reported they felt better hydration. In our own consumer survey, this is the result. 28% of people who used our products reported a significant difference. 20% saw some difference, 30% saw a slight difference, and 22% saw no difference. However, 93% of the users claim that they'll never go back washing their face with tap water.
But what you're showing here, that there is a parallel, like the control is not improving in the treatment, the normal. But I mean, the baseline is
So this graph, it does show a little bit of increase, but it's not statistically significant enough for us to say this is clinically proven. So what we're doing is we're constantly testing. We're actually doing continuous clinical study in this field, because we don't want to just push out a product. We want to do research. We're doing research in this field.
And it's ongoing as well.
So here are some real user pictures provided by our consumers. And these are authentic. They're not made up. They're not false. I'm very thankful that they're willing to share their skin conditions and put their face out here. So, for example, the first one has rosacea, acne, and after a month of use, she said this was a game changer for her. The second one, rosacea, game changer. The third one, acne, dryness, much better. And then the fourth one, redness, acne, so much better. This one, 2 weeks of use with the water filter, less acne, less redness. This one suffered from eczema his whole life, and with some lifestyle changes and washing the face with water filter, he was able to clear up his eczema and have it under control. This one, acne, much better after 3 weeks. Again, this one, redness and acne, so much better. So these are all very authentic from our users that we have collected, and they're the ones that are reaching out to us. So what is our traction? Well, we launched about 3 months ago, less than 3 months ago, and we didn't through organic growth. So we spent $0 on ad, $0 on marketing, $0 paying influencers, absolutely no marketing budget whatsoever. Not because we don't want to, but we simply grew organically. The first month we did 350 homes. The second month we doubled that, and the third month we quadrupled that. And what's interesting is that
5 boxes of like 1,000 units in your house.
Yes, my house is the fulfillment center right now. And what's really interesting is that 95% of these customers are on our subscription model. This is a very high lifetime value. So the filters are being changed every 3 months. They're giving us $45 every 3 months, which means $15 every single month. If we were able to get into 1 million homes with a speed as fast as possible in 3 years, will be $1 billion valuation at the very basic level, without any data, without any technology incorporated, calculated.
how are you able to get the people though? You're doing no marketing. How are you doing it? I mean, how do the people join you?
So we grew based on a lot of videos and pictures that we post very organically. So TikTok, Instagram, IG Reels, we study the algorithm and we post content. And I'll show you the result of, it's not working again.
And also you have to realize that skincare issues, especially in this country, are prevalent. People are looking for solutions. Most of the time, dermatologists, doctors do not have the average solution for the typical consumer who's suffering from rosacea, eczema, acne, including children. This is a common issue with children that starts from the moment that they're born. So when you're marketing a company such as this, it's very easy to attract customers in an organic way because these are real life problems that need solutions. And most of the time when you're a consumer, you're not dependent on your doctor to tell you, okay, this is a solution. You're in a state of desperation, you're in a state of panic, and you're in a state of frustration. So you go out seeking information that normally wouldn't be readily available to you. And that's what we use and utilize to our advantage.
So within 2.5, 3 months of launching, organically, we gathered 40,000 email lists plus phone numbers. So huge, I would say a pretty good data list by giving out. And how we did it was we were giving out free water report. So this demonstrated that there's a demand for this product and there's a demand for more transparent tap water quality. And then within these couple months, we were able to organically gain 60,000 followers on social media cumulatively and cumulative video views of 60 million. So again, this is our goal, to be in 1 million homes as fast as possible on a subscription model. I was told to include this for investors. So this was, so you imagine, this is only the core of our initial product. We have a waiting list for shower filters next, for bath filters next, for other products that can be introduced. So this is only our foot in the door. And when we build the technology part, I believe that we can reach massive adoption. We haven't even done Facebook ads. We have not done any Instagram ads. We haven't done any really marketing. I've just brought Melanie on. She's the marketing specialist. We haven't done any of the tactics that we're so excited to do. And we've achieved this kind of organic growth. So it shows that there is a demand. How Filter Baby wins, again, this is for the investors. We've proven a demand and we generated revenue already. We're in 2,500 homes, 95% of them are on a subscription. And that's, again, that's only with one product.
So do the filters all last a certain amount of time, or do you monitor the filter depending upon the water quality in a particular location?
Yes, so right now we have one filter to give out to everyone. We've proven the concept that this isn't needed, right? In a couple months, we're launching a customized water filter based on the tap water quality in your area and the condition of your skin. So if you have dry skin, then we're gonna add a little water softener to your water. Or if you have excess lead, we're gonna add certain chemicals in there to reduce lead. So that's where we're headed. And then on top of that, we're building an app that tells you in real time that we gather all these tap water quality data from the public to tell you, hey, maybe in New York City, there's a pipe bursted over there and you should really watch for your drinking water or shower filter water, whatever. Do you want to upgrade to a better filter because there's a contamination going on? So with this app and the data that we constantly collect, we are able to differentiate ourselves from just from Pure, from Brita, or any other, Amazon $25 water filters out there. We're really a technology company at a core.
So when you say you're going to add because of the lead, it's an ion change thing? Filter where it'll change as the water goes through, or?
So I have a team of scientists, PhD scientists, they can answer that question. I don't want to answer anything wrong technically, spec wise.
Oh, I got one of those PhDs, I can't answer. That's why I can't answer. But one other question, I don't know, I know that when I talk, the endpoint that you charted there, with hydration, I was just curious, is this self-reporting or is it a laboratory tested result on the relative amount of moisture? I wasn't quite clear.
Yeah, this is done in a clinical study, this chart right here. So the top part is reported by the clinical study. The bottom part is our own consumer study. I'm sorry?
So, when you do a study, clinical study, there's an endpoint. And, for example, if you have pulmonary arterial hypertension, it's when your lungs basically build skin inside, and then you can breathe. You measure the number of steps, about for 1 minute, for example, that you are able to take. So it's measuring how strong your respiratory is. So was there, what the endpoint, was it measuring the content of moisture in the skin?
Yes, it was measuring the content of the moisture in the skin, skin radiance, and whether or not the depth of wrinkle was observed to be significant. So it didn't show any significance in the depth of wrinkle, which I expected because it was only 2 weeks. This is why we're carrying out longer clinical case studies right now. So, our PhD scientists there, they think that, if you use the water filter, which is much better than your tap water, over use of time, in 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 8 months from now on, there should be a significant improvement in your skin. Does that answer your question?
It's difficult because, depending on the time the sample is taken, and I don't know, again, I'm not an expert on hydration of the skin. So, some people, they're dehydrated. Other people, they drink water all day long. They go finish a workout, come out in the sauna. Certain situations, the time it's cold. So the time that you take that sample. Again, I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just trying to understand. It's a difficult sort of endpoint, right? I mean, you have to compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges. It's hard to get a good endpoint, get good data, and then do the data analysis on that. I mean, just for me as a naive person, that's what I was asking.
Yeah, definitely. I think so too, and I think this applies to a lot of other fields as well. There's going to be some factors that you have to account for, right? But overall, there is a lack of research with tap water quality and skincare. So this is why we're a research company. We're out there to do the research, to focus on the science and do the studies nobody else is doing. So at least I think we're going in the right direction. And then I think the clinical lab who have experience is still account into, setting very strict standards. Hey, you don't put any creams on your face. Try to go to sleep 8 hours a night because that can affect the hydration as well, right? Eat the same, exercise the same, but there are going to be some human differences that applies to any clinical trial, really, right?
If you account for those, it may help you in terms of generating statistical significance and slope. Obviously, perhaps more dramatic. I mean, some people, they put on a lot of lotion. People like me, I just come out of the shower. I never looked that good. I was never worried about it.
Well, I think you look very fine.
I'm trying to get by with other factors, but anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Thank you. I apologize.
No problem. And again, yes.
I have a question. In my building, occasionally we have water shutdowns. These are building-wide water shutdowns for the whole building. My question to you is the building using some kind of cleaning agent, chemical cleaning agent, to clean something where the water is passing through? And does your filter out those cleaning agents if there is water?
I don't think, I have to do some research, but I don't think the building itself will clean. You mean they clean their own pipes?
I don't know what they're doing. Water shutdown.
Okay, as far as I know, and if I'm a building owner, I would probably not really pay attention to this invisible problem unless there's a huge problem It's like the water is brown, the water is yellow, and I would probably contact my city's water.
It's got nothing to do with the color of the water.
So then,
I think to answer your question, so what we want to focus on is that the research that is available in this department is 0 to none. As in the cities, the states, Newark, states, cities in Pittsburgh, Detroit, Michigan, Flint, Michigan, Newark, New Jersey, New York. The bottom line is this. There is no company that is testing the amount of contaminants that are in the water aside from the EPA. The EPA does not have real live access to information about tap water on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. This information is only released once a year. That is very dangerous in a state where there's no safe level of lead exposure. It is a neurotoxin. And from there, not just with skin issues, because we're appealing to the beauty world, but an overall thing is that your skin is the largest organ on your body. Whether or not you decide to put lotion on it, whether or not you decide to take probiotics to affect the overall internal wellness of your skin, doesn't really matter in this sense. As in, you're using water to brush your teeth. Lead exposure contaminants can also cause decay and enamel erosion in your mouth. So what we want to address is, or what our company is addressing, is the lack of transparency and the lack of accountability when it comes to cities, buildings, building owners. Every city is different, but one thing's for sure: the amount of drinking water, the amount of contaminants in water, in tap water that is flowing through our homes, that we use to feed our children, brush our teeth, clean our skin, wash our ass, is not safe. And Filter Baby is addressing this issue. And there are not a lot of companies that do that. There are little rinky-dink products that are available on Amazon, but there's no transparency, no accountability. The only two big giants that exist in this industry are Brita and Pure. And they've been around for so long, they're legacy companies. They have so much of the market share, it doesn't really matter to them. So I think to answer your question, it's a yes, it's a no, but that's not the value proposition of this company. The value proposition of the company is to ensure that our water that is flowing through your home, your child's tap water, is clean, is safe, and it's free a little bit from the contaminants and the chemicals that are released into the city every day. So when you have a water shutdown in your building, you don't know what's happening, but the city knows. And with our technology, we're able to tell you in real time, this is what's happening with your tap water, and this is what you can do about it.
So on that note, we're going to pass around the email address for you guys. And if you want a free Filter Baby, you'll have a coupon for it. Yeah. And so we'll be shipping it to you. So give it to use it yourself, give it to one of your friends, give it to somebody that needs it and doesn't have the opportunity to gain access to those kinds of things.
So my name is Hafiza Mohammed. I'm the founder of Yumi Healthcare. We're a mental health company helping to solve the mental health crisis in the US. So how it began, in October of 2020, my son, who was 6 at the time, came to me and said, "Mommy, I feel like I want to kill myself." As a mom, I felt like a failure. I felt that even though I was an executive for the largest mental health company in the US, I had more than 2,000 therapists around me, I could not find care for my son. And the reason why, because of his disability, he had Medicaid. And my son is definitely not alone in this issue, being able to get the help that he needs because of his federally funded insurance. So 46 million children in the US are on federally funded insurance that 20 million of them need access to mental health services. And when you think about like the issue, this market has doubled since May, when the last CDC report came out, showing that more kids need access to mental health. And when you take a look at the provider shortage, less than 14% of providers accept that Medicaid insurance that my son would have desperately needed. So I wanted to make sure I solved the crisis on both ends. How do I bring more providers within the marketplace? And how can I partner to ensure that everyone has equal access to mental health services? So what I was able to identify as one of the gaps in regards to the mental health crisis is that every year there's more than 20,000 graduates that graduate every year. In order for them to get licensed, they have to work under supervision for additional 2 years. We have a great licensed individual. She's laughing because she knows how difficult it is to find that support. In addition, they have to pay out of pocket for that support. So what we do at UME is that we make sure we provide a residency where they can, these individuals are licensed, they have their malpractice insurance. We make sure we provide that supervision, and in return, they're more than likely they're happy to get their hours seeing those kids who are usually left behind at UME Healthcare. Because I like to tell everyone I'm a capitalist with a capital C. So when I launched this business last year, I wanted to make sure I found a way that we can cut costs and make sure that we're able to find the kids who actively need care. So we partner directly with schools, pediatricians, and inpatient hospitals to find those kids. One of the biggest pediatrician offices that we work with right now, you guys know Johns Hopkins in Maryland. So we see their patients, and in return, we provide care, we provide data back to them as well. A lot of talk about data in regards to the type of diagnosis that we're seeing. Just to let you know about the market size, the target market that we're going after is a $27 billion market. And that's just focusing on the kids who are in federally funded insurance. And there's nothing like free money, right? Like that's federally funded that we can get reimbursed as well from those children. The beauty about this is that I love that there's a market. There's a market that's been hot where there's in different companies that's entering the market for mental health. But what's the biggest difference between UME Healthcare is that we provide equal access to all. So we accept Medicaid, we accept commercial insurance. So no matter who you are, we're gonna make sure that we're able to see you at UME Healthcare. Additionally, cultural humility is what we practice. I know there's a lot of talk around about cultural competence, but by the time I'm from the Virgin Islands, have a mom that's Christian, a dad that's Muslim. By the time I find someone that's culturally competent to handle my care, I will be in crisis. So I'm looking for someone who has the humility to know that no matter who I am or my background, my condition is my condition. And if you have that foundation, and anyone can have access to care. And we're so focused on providing equal access to care is that we utilize something called bibliotherapy, which is books and therapy as well. It's one of the first therapeutic that came out before you start seeing CBT. When we realized that our books was not representing the kids that we saw, what we did was that we started creating our own books. We started digitalizing them. And right now we receive funding from Pivotal Ventures, an incubation company funded by Melinda Gates, as well as Hope Lab, where we're building out this technology to make it digital. It's gonna be one of the first mental health technologies that can access one book, can reach 1 million children. So we're in the process of developing that. Our launch is in November. So hopefully we can have everyone come and see how great the technology, when you put in your demographics, it automatically changes based on your character and who you are as a person. So really great technology that we're building out and that we're supportive. And when we think about from a business perspective, when you enter a market and you want to know how can you provide this demand, is this a real market? Since we launched in April of last year, we've delivered more than 350,000 in revenue, in top line revenue. 82% of our children see improvement by the 4th session. But my why, and the most important factor for me, was that we have saved 13 lives by being able to provide the mental health services. And these kids were ones who came in, they were actively suicidal, and they're still here with us today. And that's my main goal at UME Healthcare, is that we can save lives and be able to reach the masses in mental health. Our business model, our average reimbursement is around $120 per session. Because we have a combination of, we have the residents, we're able to have a lower pay, which is around $50 average. We do medication as well. So we have psychiatrists on staff. So we're a one-stop shop for all different issues. Our goal is next year we can achieve $1.6 million in revenue. That's our target, because we were just running a trial to be able to work out the different kinks and the different issues that we see within the mental health space, so we can provide a product that can scale. All right, so with that, I would like to say my superpower, I would like to say, is like building strong teams. So I have an incredible team. Shannon Chemer just recently joined my team in July. She was the one who was at the last company I was with. She recruited more than 4,000 therapists within 2 years. And within 18 months, the company was able to achieve over $1 billion valuation. She did it there and she's doing it here at UME. So we're really excited to see the work that she's gonna do. We have a great team on marketing. We have exceptional individuals around, the Medicaid MD that helps work with us at UME Healthcare. In regards to our raise, we're raising $2 million on a convertible note, a $9 million cap. We have already received 1.2 million, so we have 800,000 left. So we're looking forward to closing our round as well. And when I think about my team and why they're important. So this is just a little bit about our round and why we're raising. The most important part of UME Healthcare is the lives that we're gonna save. These are children who lost their lives because of the crisis. We were not, that if UME Healthcare were in their area, they will be here today. And with your help and your support, we can help save lives together at UME Healthcare, and knowing that no matter who you are, where you're from, everyone deserves equal access to care. So that's me, UME Healthcare in a nutshell. I just wanted to make sure I respected everyone's time. And you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Yes. Actually studied clinical psychology. I understand you have a doctor who is, expert on clinical psychology. But when it comes to these workers, it's good when they study the DSM-5 manual. Like, for example, when some kids have a depression, it could be that they might be bipolar or they might have borderline personality disorder. And these are two different diseases. And unless the worker has really the direct knowledge of a DSM-5 manual, you cannot give the right therapy. It must be just a general therapy. If I have my own kid and he has or she has, borderline or bipolar, I would require that my therapist has to have the right education to do my job. I will just not give it to nothing with whatever your company. Just a general therapist will do my job, because this is not so easy as you sound. It's a really big sensitive things, and usually doctors, they prescribe for the bipolar, serotonin stimulator, but when you take them more than 6 months, they have side effects that affect organs and everything. So as soon as you can, you should later try to come from the drugs to more natural therapy, like use supplements, herbs, different natural therapy, holistic therapy to treat it. So it's very important when you have these therapies, the doctor should be also clinical psychology therapists, but they should also use alternative. That's the best way now.
Yeah, so I'm definitely a fan of alternative medicines, and right now we're in crisis mode. So when you're in crisis, you run towards it. One thing that we do with our residents is every Saturday we get the entire team together because we're in a crisis. We have to face it. Our job is to save lives, and it provides support to every single provider. So if there's a provider you come in, you have 13, sometimes 15 eyes on your case as well. So we're not like a prescribed first, we're a self first. So I really appreciate that, and eventually we'll be able to evolve once we have more data into something more natural. But right now we're in crisis and we have to use what's available. What's your question?
Great offering. Thank you.
Yeah.
The outreach to the children, books is great. So I have some investors to introduce you to for that.
Thank you.
But on the digital outreach, can you talk a little bit about that? Is it phone-based or?
Yeah, so outreach is all via telehealth. We do have micro locations within the in pediatricians' offices, but those are only for emergency circumstances. So we haven't used them yet, but everything has been over telehealth.
So you look for telehealth partners?
Yeah, telehealth partners as well. So any pediatrician, they send a referral over, we connect, we sign them up, build the insurance, and we get reimbursed all over telehealth.
They look very young.
Yeah.
And they have suicidal thoughts. So that to me is abnormal. Is it parenting style? What do you think is based on your experience with these children is the root cause?
So based on the data that we have, like even though they might seem young, most times individuals who have suicidal ideations, they can start at a younger age, but they're not diagnosed until they're a lot older. So it's not saying that they're young, it's just that we're able to diagnose them sooner. But some data that we're seeing is that we do see parents. So if we notice that there's an issue within the household, then we will start therapy with the parents because we know it's a full cycle of care that's needed. So we also provide care to parents as needed. But as a young age, that's always been a myth. The crisis and the pandemic has showed that kids are suffering earlier, but now there's more action around it, and there's not as much what can I say? Like people are more open to being able to know their child is in crisis, and that's why we're able to see it earlier.
I'll speak to that a little bit. I have a son, my oldest son, who was diagnosed with anxiety and depression at age 3. And it was because he was so articulate at 14 months, he could talk in couple sentences. And he could say what he was thinking and get these thoughts that, like, where did he come up with that? So it is absolutely a born with it sort of thing. I also have anxiety and depression, but what really led to his diagnosis was getting in with the right doctors to assess. It was all being triggered by the sensory issues. So he has sensory processing disorder, which exacerbated his everything is always on level 10 or 11 and made him feel exacerbated and depressive. So I think it's just new things like sensory processing disorder that's being assessed if it's on the autism spectrum. And what I told my son is it gives you your superpowers. Thank God we're able to understand them and address them either through, it took medicine for a number of years, or now he's super into working out, and that's where he finds his help and his setting.
Yeah. And I'll save questions for later because I know I want to respect set goes next. I have to definitely run out. So if you have any individual questions, one more, I'll take your question.
I just want to offer, I think, because your children all have issues, I have a very good friend who has technology.
Okay.
I'm sure he would be glad to give you for free, called Gather Voices. And on a mobile phone, you could have children tell you a story easily and aggregate them. So you could have professionals look at them from a video point, no cameraman, no nothing, to help get information together. We're doing this all over the world, and I'm sure my friend who has this technology would be very happy to give it to you for free.
Yeah, I'm always open to partnerships. It's a crisis and we can all solve it together.
So we got like a pediatric thing going here with Filter Baby and then, Hume, which is great. We're going to talk a little bit about pediatric skincare here real quick. My name is Seth Reno, so I'm the CEO of Arkeli Biopharma, and our company is really dedicated to developing better therapies for pediatric vascular anomalies. It's a fancy word for infantile hemangiomas. The challenge here, really the problem that's outlined, is that the only available therapy today that is standard of care is oral beta blockers, and they have very serious side effects because they're systemically absorbed. And so the challenge with that is most parents understand that beta blockers are used in older populations. And because of the systemic absorption of that, they're not comfortable with their providers, prescribing that at an early age of anywhere between 3 weeks and 3 months of age. So the result that we start to see is that there's a wait and see attitude to treating these infantile hemangiomas. And if left untreated, you can see the pictures between 1 month and 3.5 months of age. There is a drastic change. They can double, quadruple in size. They can become ulcerated. If they're located near the eyes, ears, or nose, they can become functionally structural in nature and cause a lot of damage as they continue to grow.
Are these detected in the womb too, or just when they're first born?
Yeah, they come out and you can actually, because they're superficial, you can actually see them. But some of them will develop it as late as 1 month of age and start to, almost the size of a little pimple. It starts to grow and then it starts to erupt in the first 3 months of age, or when about 80 to 90% of the growth takes place.
Oh.
So the current therapies available is there's actually only one drug that's been approved by the FDA. It's oral propranolol. It was approved back in 2014 by the trade name Hemangiol. Timolol eye drops are also used off-label. There's been a trend to using more Timolol because parents feel a little bit better instead of giving systemic, oral therapy by putting, the drops on the skin, but they are absorbed just as much as the oral suspension is. And what Arkeli is working on is a once daily long-acting gel. And the trick to this is you can see that the half-lives are quite different. We have an ultra short half-life of anywhere to 4 to 9 minutes versus 3 to 6 hours. So we're concentrating that gel at a higher level of medication and applying it just to the hemangioma. So you're getting drug only where the hemangioma is located and it's not systemically absorbed. We've actually created this in a formulation that's a clear topical self-formulating gel. It's designed specifically for sensitive skin to be put right on top of hemangiol. We have been able to get 24-hour release out of that, actually going quite a bit beyond that. And Esmolol is really one of the only beta blockers out there that has this ultra short half-life of 4 to 9 minutes. And it's really metabolized pretty quickly in the red blood cells, which eliminates systemic exposure. And the challenge with systemic exposure, some of the side effects that you can get are cold limbs, hands and feet. You can become hypoglycemic. There is a CNS effect to this, so you'll have kids that have terrible sleeping disorders. And then on the more serious end, there can be seizures or bronchospasms associated with it as well. So the market, from a segmentation standpoint of view, about 55% of the cases that physicians see should be treated because they're going to have some level of sequelae, usually scarring or some type of function within the hearing loss, or being able to breathe through their nose, or be able to eat with their mouth. And you can see out of the each year about 170,000 babies are born in the U.S., which is about 4.5% of all births each year. And out of that, 12% of them have more severe complications, like we saw on slide 3. 33% will have no sequelae and it will go away. But it's not like a pimple. It doesn't go away within a month or two. These infantile hemangiomas can stick around for a number of years. They're fairly serious. Currently, out of that, you can see 55% of the kids, need to be treated. So we went back and looked at actual prescriber level data, and we see that only 27% of infants, when you look at the prescriber level, are actually being treated. And so there's a gap here, not only the technology of the innovation of the drug, but really the reason why these kids aren't being treated is the wait and see, where physicians are really uncomfortable from a primary care perspective and treating these, 3 to 5 week old infants with a beta blocker. So they'll defer that into a specialty referral to a dermatologist. There's about 60 to 80,000 pediatricians around the US, but there's only about 600 pediatric board certified dermatologists that really specialize in infantile hemangioma. So there's a little bit of a bottleneck and a disconnect, and there's a pretty big bottled up unmet need. And you can see the gap between 27% and the 55% that really need treatment. It's getting better. In 2019, American Academy of Pediatrics came out with some guidelines in using propranolol for the use of treating infantile hemangioma. And so there is a nice growth curve, but there's still a ways to go. From a patient funnel size and the size of the market, we start off with 170,000 kids. 55% of them need to be treated for severe sequelae or moderate sequelae. Out of that, about 10% will have dispersed infantile hemangioma, which will be appropriate for the required systemic treatment. So when you remove that out, we believe that we have an eligible population each year of 84,000 kids that can be eligible for topical therapy. We dollarize that times the branded cost for hemangiol that's in the market now at $957 a month, and that's just under $1 billion. So it is a fairly big market. One of the things that our team is always looking ahead at phase 1 and phase 2 and thinking about our primary endpoint and our co-primary points that are really important to prove statistical significance in these double-blinded randomized trials. And we actually were awarded a grant from the University of Wisconsin to work on this technology to quantify co-endpoints and primary endpoint measurement. This is a technology that wasn't available a number of years ago. It's called Canfield 3D photography, and it actually helps you size out the reduction in size of the infantile hemangioma and creates a volume reduction area of that so you can see the statistical significance. It also is able to track the level of redness and the thickness of the infantile hemangioma. So that was a really a great grant to receive because it's non-dilutive sources of funds, and it helps us move along nicely in that area for our clinical studies. Intellectual property wise, we filed a patent back in the fall of 2019. We also have an orphan application in as we speak. Orphan is important because an orphan designation for an orphan subset designation allows you 7 years. And because this is pediatrics, you get an additional 6 months, so you get 7.5 years. And we have method claims running out for infantile hemangioma to 2037. This is our proven leadership team. Everybody has at least 20 to 30 years in either commercializing orphan products in the pediatric market, dermatology, transdermal delivery. But I would like to give a special call out to Dr. Beth Drolet. She's one of our co-founders. She is a pediatric dermatologist. She chairs the Department of Pediatric Dermatology out at the University of Wisconsin. She sees kids every week. She has about 400 kids that run through our clinic each year with infantile hemangiomas. She's been on all the key studies for any therapy treating infantile hemangiomas for the last 25 years. And one of the things that is clearly relevant every week, I get calls from her, I see pictures from her. There is a big gap and an unmet need to come out with a drug that is non-systemic, that's topical, to start to treat this disease state early so that these kids don't have long-term sequelae. So right now we're in the middle of raising a $1 million seed through the Simple Safe. We have a 20% discount with a cap. We've already started to create our formulation. We are scaling our preclinical drug supply and preparing them for the mini pig study, which is down below. That is our proof of concept that this drug will not have systemic absorption. We've already started work on the pre-IND meeting and scheduling that and the IND templates needed. So in the last few months since May, again, we've been awarded $70,000 grant from U of W to study the Canfield 3D. We're also a winner in the Innovate Children's Healthcare Network Challenge, which is really exciting. So just in the interest of time, if anybody has any questions, here's my information to contact us. You can check us out on the website at arcali.com. But we are, our team is out there in the interest of coming out with new innovative therapy, much safer, so that we can really put an end to the #1 cause of preventable childhood disfigurement, and that is untreated infantile hemangiomas.
My name is Brianna Ronco Stevens, and I'm the CEO and founder of Group K Diagnostics. Our goal is to revolutionize rapid blood testing and improve patient outcomes. I can bore you with a problem slide about how 50% of pharmaceutical monitoring tests get missed, 36% of abnormal results don't make it back to the patients, that rapid tests are expensive, there are few, laboratories are annoying. We've all been to LabCorp and Quest, but instead I'm going to tell you a story about my son. This is a picture of him at 2 days old. You can see he already, thank you, he already has a Band-Aid on his foot. Before my son was 1 month old, he had so he was born 6 weeks early, and by the time he was 1 month old, he had over 10 heel sticks, and he also had a venous blood draw. Yes, they can do a venous blood draw on a baby that small to test for jaundice. He was born early, he had some complications, it's very common. I've obviously been working on this problem for a long time for adults, but I did not realize what it was like to sit and watch my baby scream while a nurse squeezed his heel for 10 minutes to get 600 microliters of blood for a diagnostic test. Our solution can do the test that took 600 microliters of blood in 15. You're a handheld chemistry and infectious disease analyzer for everyone, all in one. We have complex underlying tech that's transformed into one seamless interface. We have a device that is the actual cartridge. We've got an app that reads the color change, and we also have our low-tech imaging box, I call it, that is able to read the results. So we're a finger stick, we're a heel prick, consultation and treatment all in one, no refrigeration, no lab, and no training necessary. Moving on to some of our traction, we have a federal partnership with the CDC on a first-in-class rapid Zika test. That's our first infectious disease test. We've got a deal in progress with McKesson as our distributor. They're seeing a hole in the market when the ISAT recall their capillary testing. We've also got a partnership with a European tier 1 pharmaceutical company that has a confidentiality agreement overarching that. We've got 2 issued patents, 3 pending, as well as several additional partnerships. And beyond that, there's a huge market size we're going after. Point of care diagnostics have gone up and up, and it's in the billions. We've seen a 33% decrease in on-site doctor's visits, a 12% increase in telehealth visits, and this need for a rapid diagnostic that can be sent to patients' homes is increasing every single day, in particular for children. If you've been to a pediatrician's office recently, it's not fun. Everyone's sick. You don't know what they have. You're coughing. I've got my preemie in the office. You were sent to the outpatient hospital lab. You do not want to bring your 5-week-old preemie to the outpatient hospital lab for a blood draw. We need something that can be done either in the pediatrician office or at home for these children. So where are we today? This company's been around. I started about 5 years ago. Obviously, this is just a great story that's entered my life recently. And we currently, under FDA review, that I have to get back for, is our bilirubin diagnostic, which is our first in class. It so happened to be that bilirubin was the first before I even had my son, which is why I spent many tears on the phone with investors saying, it could have been 15 microliters if we had just moved a little faster. After that, we have ALT and AST, glucose, total protein, some of your main tests that are run every day, SCMP, CBC right behind that. Our market entry business model, I'm sorry, I'm going very fast, is we manufacture in-house. We have a proprietary process of how we manufacture them to scale so cheaply versus things like our competitors like the iSet and the Piccolo. Physicians would buy our devices, or they would buy our at-home enterprise system that they can send out to patients and can be done in the house. And then physicians are reimbursed through existing CPT codes, as well as in our enterprise system. They would be offering an additional service to patients. They wouldn't have to come out to the lab. They wouldn't have to come into the hospital system either. I'm going to skip over competitors. I think I've sold why we're better than LabCorp and Quest. We have a great, strong science-based team. There's myself. My background is as an engineer specializing in microfluidics. My CTO, Sam Parks, has had 2 successful multi-hundred employee startups so far. One he exited, one he left as they are about to go bigger to join us, and then a strong science team as well. So this is my son yesterday, actually.
Looks good.
Thank you. He's downstairs currently. And our goal in the next 2 years is to continue expanding our application of our diagnostic. In doing this, we are raising a $3 million round with $1.5 million currently committed. We are looking for a lead. The current commits are all from current investors. And we also have about a $1 million soft circled in addition to that from follow-on investors. So like I said, we are focusing on point of care in the home and for folks in pediatrician offices as well as for adults. We're not just a pediatric application, but I do think that it has a strong recommendation of why we shouldn't be squeezing babies' feet for 10 minutes anymore, and they shouldn't be bleeding on your kitchen floor when the home nurse comes. But instead, we could do this with 15 microliters, not 600.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the operating company that I referenced earlier, Refashioned OS. In our easiest sort of one-liner pitch is that we're the kayak.com for profitable fashion reshoring. We're a platform that connects and orchestrates local fashion value chains from fibers to finished goods here in the US, delivering sustainability, living wages, and better margins. How are we like kayak.com? Well, our factories are the airlines. Capacity is airplane seats, and purchase orders are the flights. So we partner with US fibers to finished good factories to match and facilitate brands' demand, enable brands to pre-book raw materials capacity, and manage visible PO orchestration as small batch or on demand across the value chain. The problem, as I was speaking about earlier, is pretty large. The fashion supply chain is a hot mess. It's overproducing, opaque, toxic, and full of risk. In 2019, one of the largest retailers in the world reached out to me because of risk mitigation. And this was before the pandemic, before that Suez Canal incident, and these once-in-a-lifetime storms and crises happening every month now around the globe. $50 billion is the amount of overproduction every year just in the US that goes to dead stock, landfill, or incineration. The current lack of transparency of our global infrastructure is a feature, not a bug. 10% of CO2 emissions is the fashion industry's contribution to impact and risk. Year-over-year increases in global trade wars, disasters, disruptions, logistics breakdowns that's the only constant. Our solution, localized collaborative value chains. They're sustainable, transparent, post-purchase, and de-risked. We are reducing the 30 to 40% of global volume-based overproduction to 5% or less. We have full transparency because it's digitally native local infrastructure built for visibility. We have 85% sell-through of products at full retail price, eliminating discounts, markdowns, and losses. And of course, agility. Increasing risk is driving reshoring, seeking speed to market and faster inventory turns. The current global model is produce, ship, sell, and then landfill or incinerate. Our local model is sell, produce, ship, and then recycle and remonetize. This industry is massive, $3 trillion by 2030, if not sooner, thanks to companies like Shein and Cider. 65.2 billion is, according to the National Council of Textile Organizations here in the US, currently being produced. 8 billion is the amount that the fashion industry has committed to reshoring to the US market by 2025. Our current founding factory partners represent collectively about 300 years in business in the United States and $10.2 billion in production capacity with our tier 1 and their tier 2 partners. They currently have about 1 billion of unutilized finished goods capacity for reshoring of brands currently available, ready to go. McKinsey & Company states that 71% of brand CPOs plan to increase their reshoring by 2025. When that huge global brand reached out to me in 2019, I said, well, why do you need me? If you need me, then I would imagine other brands do. After 50 years of overseas production, brands are blind to existing US textiles and apparel factories. We're the reshoring easy button. Our one-stop shop made in the USA platform allows brands to pre-book and capacity plan against raw materials. The POs draw against those raw materials. Our platform orchestrates across the approved US factories, and then brands receive updates and notifications, including turnaround time. Our advantage is as simple as this. If you look at actual margins instead of landed cost of goods sold, that, oh, I could get a t-shirt for $2 in India. The reality is not that you're getting a $2 t-shirt. If you look at your shipping containers that have gone from $1,500 in early 2020 to now upwards of $20,000 just for a box to put your stuff in, not including the increasing cost of ocean freight, air freight, et cetera. And then inventory not landing until the end of season, so it's automatically marked down to 90% off. So if you look at this global model for $150 retail price garment, 25% is the sell-through at full retail price. That's if you're doing really well under the current global model. Only 25% sells through at full retail price. So your average price after discounts, markdowns, and dead stock is really $86. Our model, local, 85% sells through at full retail price because we're selling, producing, and shipping. Our adjusted price after discounts, markdowns, and dead stock becomes $143, 65% higher revenue. For brands, we become a one-stop shop platform from fibers to finished goods, innovation and production. We allow brands to sell, produce, ship, which they cannot do under the current infrastructure. They're having their butts handed to them by companies like Shein and toxic fast fashion. Speed to market, agility, faster inventory turns. We allow for increased profit margins compared to overseas despite higher wages. We do not want to just replicate the race to the bottom here in the US. And real-time visibility, waste reduction, traceability, compliance, and sustainability. For our factory partners, I love this term. They said, alone, we have no power. We are at the mercy of the brands. Collectively, you've turned us into a virtual guerrilla. I was like, oh, I love that. Virtual guerrilla refers to the collective buying, lobbying, and financing power. There is strength in numbers. We deliver consistent revenue, higher value purchase orders, and integrated orchestration across the value chain with lower risks. The factories, existing factories, can focus on their ops. They know how to cut and sew. They do not know innovation, so they outsource it to us. We help create operational efficiency, increase margins, and maximize their capacity. And most importantly, if we're reshoring jobs, we do not want to replicate that race to the bottom. We are creating careers, not jobs, higher wages, staff reskilling and upskilling, creating careers without college degrees required. Actually, Shimmy, one of the supply chain programs companies, she is gamifying reskilling of factory workers in Bangladesh. They have a 4th grade education, can't read or write, or even afraid to touch a computer because it's worth more than their lives in the caste system. And she's gamified it to be as addictive as Candy Crush through voice and touch screen. These women in Bangladesh can be creating digital patterns in as little as 4 hours. So if we can do that in Bangladesh, we can create jobs here in the US. Here in the US, that is a 6-figure salary. I mean, we can't hire enough of them fast enough. Our data network effect, more factories we onboard, the more types of brands and categories we can expand to. Our algorithms get smarter and we create increased stickiness. It is exactly the model that Mr. Bezos took when he decided to simply sell some books online, investing in infrastructure of warehouses and logistics. The real gold there was owning everyone else's data. For us, we are owning all of our factory partners' data with them. Because we're a software business, we're far more efficient and have higher margins than our factory partners ever could. But because it's a reciprocal model, we have profits that exceed 92% in year 5, and we kick back a percentage to our factories so they can reskill, upskill, and update their infrastructure. Go to market. We started with on-demand and worked our way backwards. My team has worked with Gerber Innovation Lab, and actually the guy that designed the Gerber Innovation Lab is our head of factories. We figured out the unit economics, how it needs to be part of a distributed network for it to scale and make sense for all sides of the equation. And we worked backwards to how do we get there? It all starts with data. So we're MVP is a one-stop shop, purchase order management, factory data, and collaboration platform for which we take 5%, which is more than reclaimed in all the efficiencies. Then we roll out circular textile scaling. Through my fund, we've invested in natural fiber welding, which is scaling for plant-based alternatives to leather and polyester. And Evernew, I have a pipeline of circular textiles that are ready to scale through our partners. We then leverage the same software, NFT capacities for our factories, turns into NFT tech packs for the designer marketplace with smart licensing, allowing all of our tech packs to then be resold and have a life that creates efficiencies and speed to market for other brands. In layman's terms, if you come up with the next DVF wrap dress, you can knock yourself off. They cannot currently participate in the upside they create by creating demand in today's market. In our model, if you've created the demand for a dress, you can license it to somebody downstream and say, you can't use my name, my prints, my fabrics, my whatever, and it has to be a lower price point. The brand that created the opportunity can now participate in the upside of the downstream knockoff. We then can deploy PO financing, scale additional circular textiles, and when we launch on demand, fully automated production lines, well, they're actually 90% automated. The factory margins jump upwards of 75 to 80%, which then is spread across all of the factories. Currently, factories in the US are operating at maybe 15 to, if they're lucky, 30% margin. So obviously getting to on-demand is a game changer. How do we
What about batches?
Pardon?
Batch orders?
The small batch is where we're starting.
Okay.
And then we do full post-purchase on demand. How do we make money? We start with the rev share on the platform fee from purchase orders from brands. Future roadmap, designer marketplace, SaaS and licensing sales, designers and brands, CapEx financing, factoring of our own raw materials. We control the infrastructure just like Mr. Bezos. you can control all the variables that go into it, including factoring, which is just printing money, on-demand microfactory deployments, and then production credits. This is part of my globally filed non-provisional patent, which in essence is saying, blow up your need for working capital sitting out in the world doing nothing for you for 6 months, a year, 18 months in advance. Purchase your quarterly or monthly just-in-time production credits. Think like iStock Photo. You know that a dress is going to equal 6 production credits when we ingest it, and then we just deduct. As orders come in, congratulations, your dresses are flying off your website. Would you like to replenish your production credits? Then at the end of the month or quarter, you're left maybe holding your pre-booked raw materials, which haven't been converted, and production credits instead of inventory that has to be landfilled or incinerated. It makes a lot of money. It's all software leveraging existing businesses. This has taken a long time to figure out the unit economics, to find the right partners. And unlike Silicon Valley, who likes to move fast and break things, I feel that they've broken the middle class, our economy, democracy, the planet, a couple of things. Because we're working with businesses that have existed collectively for 300 years and are privately held, we could not move fast and break things. We've done things extremely intentionally, a lot of design thinking and systems thinking to arrive at this viable model. Our team, seasoned experts. My co-founder, Eric, is a sought-after go-to-market expert. Jeff King is our head of factories. He designed the Gerber Innovation Lab. Tiffany Shadler has planned $3 billion in fashion products for Marc Jacobs, Ralph Lauren, Michael Kors, et cetera. She came up with our replenishment strategy. Every time a brand is out of stock of a bestseller, they are losing 2 to 10% per SKU per day in lost revenue. So she brings a crazy wealth of knowledge. Our fractional CFO is currently the CFO at Yamaha Motor Ventures. He was CFO at Quirky, Beats by Dre, and Stanley Black & Decker. Importantly for us, because everything is collaboration, we have an in-house legal counsel. Mark Amschroeder was in-house at Caterpillar Legal for 14 years, and then OtterBox during their growth years, going from 100 million to 1.6 billion. And then Robert Leinberg is our go-to US textiles guru. He built the US textiles industry starting in the 70s with Dow and then BASF, and then brought Portals out of the UK into the US market, breaking up the collusion of Dow, DuPont, and Monsanto, and brokered the largest IP sale in sustainable textiles, Tencel Lyocell to Lenzing. And Brian, my partner in the fund and global community. Our founding factory partners include, of course, Bob and people that he's done business with for over 40 years. Bob is the single largest importer of cotton in the US, and he wants us to put him out of business. He wants it all to shift to circular textiles produced and regenerated here in the US. James McKinnon has a weaving and network of cut and sew facilities. Marissa Fume South is on the board of the NCTO, has US lobbying power, and she has a 100,000 square foot digital knitting facility in Long Island, along with cut and sew. Tim Manson is president of Meridian Specialty Yarn Groups. They've been in business alone for 80 years in the Carolinas. They are dyeing and yarns, finishing of yarns. They built a $25 million state-of-the-art world-class dyeing facility in cash in the past couple of years. This is a sample of some of the circular textiles we have in our pipeline to scale. Traction, we've done a lot of things, happy to walk through in detail. We've got patents filed globally, non-provisionally. We're raising 3.5, we have a signed term sheet, and we're excited to create some jobs here in the United States. If you're interested, reach out.
I've been in technology for well over 2.5 decades. I have worked at some of the largest corps in the world by God's amazing grace. And I hung my hat up at Shell Oil Company. And I lived all over the world. I've worked in over 50 plus countries. Probably I've lived in about 8, 9, I don't know. I stopped counting. And what an incredible experience, first and foremost, just to learn about culture and people, and meet people where they are in life, and just get a chance to understand how people think and what's important to them. And that's been, people will ask me, what's been your biggest life lesson? It's just the ability to learn how people think and what's important to them. And that's always been the biggest gem of what I've received and back from the incredible opportunities I've been able to have. And so, so I ran Shell. I ran a user experience for Shell over 150 countries and 150,000 people. And it was probably the most. It was the NBA ring. Where's Peter? It was the NBA ring of my career. I played basketball, ran track at the University of Arizona, so I still play hoops. So Peter, we have to figure out what court we're gonna get. We're gonna. Got a mean 3-pointer still. I'm just gonna tell you right off the bat.
Yeah.
But
Awesome.
anyhow,
I love
yeah,
that.
yeah. So it's been a great ride so far, and it's just beginning. I think the second half is gonna be much better than the first half. So, when I left Shell, one of the most important things for me was to figure out, sometimes we get to that age and that point where we say, all right, what's important to us? And what most important thing for me was, well, how do I give back? And how do I bring something to humanity and for everybody, not just for some people? And so it was really important. And while I was in the Netherlands, I started to visit a couple of refugee camps. I had lived experience because my mom, who I took care of for about 10 years. She had very bad type 1 diabetic. And she came to help me. I went to Europe in 1995 to do some work there, and she helped take care of the kids. And then I was going through an unfortunate separation at the time. And so when I came back, I said, Mom, you can stay. I could use your help. And then a year later, she had a massive heart attack. And we saw every ist there is in the book, right? Podiatrist, endocrinologist, a cardiologist, blah, 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 blah. And back in 1997, 98, there was no real technology out there. We barely had data in an electronic medical record form. And so I said, okay, I'm gonna put this on the shelf because I'm IT, right? I've been in technology all of my career. And I said, because the technology is not there, but I'm gonna come back and address this at some point. And when the crisis hit Europe, I was living in the Netherlands at the time. And I said, I'm going to start figuring out how we help people, because the biggest challenge in the world is with refugees in general, when you move out of your own home and now into these camps, is what do you think we lose first at that point, right? Is our dignity, right? We can't take care of ourselves. These people have more degrees than a thermometer, and they're sitting there and their life's just decimating in the front of them, right? So how do we give them their dignity back? How do we help them? When I went to visit them, they said the biggest problems we have is really around health, right? People are very transient. And so people are moving, doctors are moving, healthcare, physicians are moving in and out of these facilities. People can't share data very easily, and I started scratching my head. I went, well, in 1997, yeah, that's right. And now it's time to pull that to the forefront of the brain and see if we can do something about it. So we'll talk a little bit about what BIOS does today. The one thing I want you to keep in your mind as we go through this, though, is just think about how many people are on the move in the world today. Yeah, if you just think of it, there's now over 95 million people that are displaced. It was 84 before Ukraine. Yeah. So now over 95 million who don't have access to their health information, 9 out of 10 times. And I'm a globetrotter. I've been all around the globe. I had 5 round the world trips in like my first year and a half when I worked for a company in Phoenix, Avnet. I never had access to my health information. And you think about it. We don't think about it. We think we're in such great health, right? But a friend of ours in the Netherlands went to Spain on holiday, and 40-year-old couple. She took a bad fall, broke her arm. Any one of us could do that, right? She happened to be allergic to an anesthetic. Out of all the frenzy that was going on, that didn't get communicated properly. Gave her that anesthetic and she died, right? And how do we prevent that? And Johns Hopkins have done a report that over 250 to 400,000 people in the United States alone every year, that's a daunting number, die in early death because of incorrect information. They don't have all the information on the patient. There's safety issues that happen and whatnot. And so systems, as you well know, we're all, everybody says, well, who's the product for? Well, 8 billion people, that's who the product's for, right? But we'll talk about how we get through that. So that's just a little bit. So let's start with, what are we on? We're on a critical mission to really empower people, educate people, and equip them with their health information, right? And I mean, like all of their health information, not just because in Epic, for example, right, you have my chart. But if you could see 5 different doctors that all have Epic and none of their systems talk to each other right here in New York City, unless you go to NYU, who is brilliantly handling that problem, right? But within their constructs, because I've talked to some of their folks there, but you must be in their Langholm system.
Yes.
Yep, because if you're not, and you go to Northwell and you have a doctor in Northwell, well, those two don't talk to each other. So how do we finally get in front and solve this problem? And I'll just come up front, HIPAA is a joke for us, right? So, and people hate me or love me, but that's just how I am. And I think HIPAA is the HR of corporate, right? They're there for the institution. They're not there for us as an individual. So how do we fix that problem? And so I happened to go get the guy who helped write HIPAA. We found each other, our paths crossed, and he's now one of my most senior medical advisors, because back in '97, when his wife, Mary Tyler Moore, was fighting for the diabetes JDRF issues, he was talking to Clinton and Gore about electronic medical records, and that is Dr. Robert Levine, and he's brilliant, and he has been a cardiologist at Mount Sinai, and he's like, finally, somebody's going to go fix this problem. Let's go make it happen, So it's time, and because of the refugee situation, that has just exacerbated the issue, and we really need to get on top of this whole, how do we identify you and how do we help you to not only be able to have your records literally at your fingertips, but how do we educate you from those records, right? Because no system is out there, and our data is in 20 different systems, and it's doing nothing for us, and it's definitely not paying us, right, Robert? So the Power of One is all about that comprehensive system out there that really brings everything together. And we truly are creating the world's first borderless health information system, right? Because tomorrow you can go to Tokyo, and if a doctor in Tokyo needs to see you, doesn't have access to you, and John Doe and Jane Doe goes there, and Jane Doe passes out, so her husband takes her, and they have no idea, doctor has no idea, most likely speaks a little English, by the way, right? But has no idea what's going on. Frantic situation. The guy could either, number one, show him the medical records right off her profile because they've shared information, or within 2 minutes, that doctor can get on for free, because it's free for all medical professionals and institutions anywhere in the world, and can get on, and within 2 minutes can have read ability to be able to see the most crucial information he needs to know about that particular person. And that's what's kind of got us past the goal line with a lot of doctors. So problems, we all know it, right? It's just systems out there, they're redundant, they're siloed, they don't talk to each other, restrictive access and sharing. Even my chart, if you ever try to share a my chart record, it's the most ridiculous thing in the world. So one of my business partners he goes to your facility, right? Not yours, but New York, NYU's facility was fabulous, but it's Epic, right? And it has my chart in the front of it. And I said, let's just run a test. It took us literally 10 minutes to get through the process. And you better be conscious on the other side of it, because otherwise you're not going to be able to share it, right? Because I have to do something on my side, he has to do something on his record. It's just the most crazy situation in the world. So visibility between providers is not there, and that's something they've been working on for a very long time, right? So it is about time that we get there now. So a lot of people heard the word Web3, right? Web3 is very, it's a prevalent phrase out there now. So what is Web3? It's all about data on the blockchain, right? And it's all about AI and machine learning, right? And we hear a lot about that in the finance world, right? Everybody wants to DeFi everything, right? Democratize and get rid of the banking system and all that good stuff. And so it's such a prevalent challenge that we have around health data. I went to MIT and I started studying blockchain very deeply because I come from the world of coding. I think, Mark, you were talking about earlier, maybe it was you, I don't know, or it was Leonard, one of the other one that was talking about punch cards on the mainframe system back in the day, right? And so back in the day, I came a little after that, but I came in that days where we were, it was Leonard, huh? Leonard. Yeah. So I came a little behind the punch cards, but I really wanted to jump into code to figure out, could we put data on the blockchain? And by the way, could that get rid of all of our regulations, right? All of the regulatory BS that we talk about, because technically it's my data. So if we could just put HIPAA and everybody else aside for a moment and just think about it, if we actually had access to our data and that was already integrated, I put my data on Facebook and HIPAA can't say a thing about it. It's my data, right? I can do whatever I want with it. So why not give people access to that data integrate that data, make it interoperable, right? And be able to utilize now the technology that we have to get the best benefit and value out of that, right? So we believe strongly in Health 3.0, which really looks at blockchain, AI, ML, and it is your health beyond borders. Now with BIOS, you can have a BIOS profile, travel anywhere in the world. You can get on an airplane going to Tokyo. And if Tokyo happened to have BIOS, let's look at Uber. Let's say Mary was at the Uber area by then and BIOS was there, right? Then literally you can look with literally either a zip code or a city, and you can say, all right, I'm going to Tokyo. How many hospitals are in Tokyo that are on BIOS? And all of them should be, because it's free, right? And it could be a standalone system outside of their existing systems if they want. But if there's 157 hospitals that came up with one button in our app, you can click, and the 157 hospitals will be able to read your profile because you consented to it.
Right, but why would you even want, you don't have to do that. Your data, why don't you have direct access to automated?
I can't hear you very well, Robert. I'm sorry.
You don't necessarily need the hospital. Why don't you just have your own portal so that even if you're unconscious, if someone knows how to access it.
That's the whole point. You're unconscious. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying if you go to Tokyo, you're in the airplane, and you're gonna say, just in case I fall unconscious because I'm by myself on this trip, you know, my data's already, they already have access to it, right? They already have access to it because I allowed it. Because with that click of a button, they can see it.
Why don't we just give them, because it's internet, why don't we just give them universal access no matter where you are, so even if they're not on the system.
Oh, we can do that. Yeah. I was just giving you specifics on if you want to go somewhere specifically. Yeah, we can do that from a universal perspective, absolutely. But that's just code, isn't it? Right? Yeah. So, but the whole point is that you can revoke it at any second that you want to give it, right? You can give it away. You can also revoke it that quick, right? So, you know, some of the key components that we've got in BIOS is, number one, it is a personal health vault, right? The data is on blockchain. It's immutable data. We have patented technology, which is biometric. And when people think of biometric, they think of, you know, like a facial on your phone, right? Or a fingerprint, right? We've taken it to the next level. So we currently have an entire handprint patented, right? So all your fingertips, your palm print, everything, because it gives what we call less false positives, right? Where it identifies you falsely, right? And when you look at someone's health, obviously that's something that needs to be 100% on. And so with patented technology behind that, we are integrating IoT devices, right? And so we are working with a partner as well that we're getting ready to start talking to. They've already done a lot of that, but we've got data everywhere, right? We wear it on a watch, we have it on a ring, we sleep on our mattress, we take a glucose measure, we do blood pressure, whatever it is. You stand on a scale. All of that is in separate systems, and none of that is telling you anything holistically about your health. What if a doctor could see 2 months of you when he goes in and when you go in to see him or her instead of 5 minutes of you, right? So now that doctor would have the ability, if you shared your data with that doctor, would have the ability to be able to say, I want to see you from the last 30 days, Mary, or the last 60 days, right? Now, maybe we can get in front of misdiagnosis, right? Maybe we can get in front because they can see something that they didn't see before. Because everybody talk about healthcare data. It's sick data. We go to the doctor 9 out of 10 times when we're not well, right? Who's looking at us the rest of the 300 days of our lives, right? And then how do you correlate that data together and bring it together to put more information out there that's valuable to both the medical professional and to ourselves? And so we're doing that real-time data. Every time data goes into your profile, everyone you've shared that profile with, if they have access to see that, can see that, yeah, because there's different levels of sharing inside of it and whatnot. And, you know, we are looking to go to retinal. We're looking to do facial and voice in the future as well, because I want to jump on the sex trafficking issue. So human trafficking, sex trafficking is a big, it's just one of the biggest problems we have in the world. And I'm a mother, I have children, and I can't even imagine something happening to my children in that capacity, right? And so how do we start utilizing a system like this to where parents can put their biometric print of their children, and something happens if somebody sees them, you know, in a bad situation in a different state or a different city, right? And you call the police and you say, I think something's fishy there, right? Something suspicious. Then they go and they manage to take the child and understand that, yes, this child is, you know, and the child could be just completely fraught at that point, right? And just completely not with it. depending on how much harm they've had, now you can biometrically identify that child and know exactly who that child belongs to and what's going on, right? Especially if the person put in a missing persons claim on that particular child, right? So we're going to be with biometric. Your print is your password. Yeah, it'll be in. You'll go into DMV and you'll use it to get your driver's license. Yeah, you'll go into a bank and you'll use it to get to your ATM before it's over with, right? Because it's where we're going, and it's getting better and better with technology is getting better and better with time. So our business model, we are a B2B2C. So we are selling into these particular sectors to start with. So we are working with schools and health insurance companies, large businesses, and governments, especially governments of emerging countries. And we just literally in the last few business days have signed a partnership with a very impressive company. That's, if you look at an Epic is mostly a back-end system, right, to hospitals, clinics, and process flow and all of that. They have that much better than Epic in my mind, but it's all built in the cloud. It's all SaaS model. They are in 8 countries, 190 clinics and hospitals by now, and we are going to be their front. We're going to do a white label with them, and we're going to be their front end patient portal, right? Because they love what we do. The fact that the person can take their data all over the world.
What's the name?
Their name?
Yeah.
That's private right now.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, but
I was gonna ask you about Epic, obviously, but
yeah, and it's not Epic. No. Judith Faulkner would have a heart failure if she heard me speak. Probably. I'd love to replace my chart. And here we are. So we compete instead of complete, right? So you look at the Epics and the Cerners, and God forbid Oracle should actually finish this if they haven't already, and Oracle will have all of our health data. That's a very scary thought. But because I've worked with Oracle and many big companies before, and but you take all of these systems out there and all of the wearables and all of the smart IT devices that we've got, and you take that and you finally have a place where that data can be brought in. There are companies that's already doing it, right? So there's Health Gorilla that's pulling data out of systems already. There's Redux that's pulling system data. By the way, Redux was a company where, you know, all of their a bunch of engineers from Epic left and went and built this, and it started to build a system that actually pulls data out of Epic, right? How funny that is.
People are onto your system so far?
We are launching at the end of Q3, beginning of Q4. So we are pre-revenue. So we are just getting ready to start, but we've got some pretty incredible traction. This company we're going to do the white label with. As a matter of fact, I'm going to fly through financials because those have not been updated yet. But the company we're getting ready to do the white label with, they already have 7 million patients in their database, and we'll give you an idea. So we're we're working with the UK right now. We're putting a bid in on a huge project where they're taking 5 million people and they're bringing them through a 20-year study. Yeah. So 5 million people and 25 pounds per year is $150 million. Just that one project would bring that to us, right? Just to give you some idea of some of our traction, but we'll get to the traction slide. But if you're looking at how we price it, we pretty much price it at, you know, the West, of course, will be much higher than the East. We're launching in India to start with, because I've built the product in India. My entire development team is there as well. We've been talking with the government of Tamil Nadu. They run everything by paper. They have 50 mini clinics we're going to go into in the next few months, and we're going to start putting BIOS in that center. We're talking to 37 universities. That's in a group called the VELS Group, and getting ahead of myself. But all of that's happening over the course of the next 3 to 6 months. Yeah. So people ask me, Mary, why do you think this is going to happen, right? Because there's a graveyard of companies that's come in. And then there's just a zombie zone, really, where there's a ton of these companies out there that are doing this kind of medical record thing, right? But how are you going to do something different? Well, you know, we're taking that data, we're going to use AI on the back end, and we're going to deliver you a very personalized health experience, right? So based on you and your health and what you're not just a demographic and not just a number that's a diabetic or a cancer patient or whatever, but how do we start to bring data to you as an individual based on the data that comes in from your devices or your.
That's very complicated.
Very complicated, and not only that, but I know I understand where you're going to go with that, but let me just say one more thing. So we are going to give you the individual the ability to put data in their own record. Yeah. So the culmination of these things nobody's doing, because there's what there is there's an entire data level that's missing here, right? A data layer. And so that data layer is our data. and how are we feeling based on what we have, right? So we do a speech to text that we're implementing as well, where people can go in and you can put your own, how am I feeling today? How am I doing? Especially in some of these clinical trials and whatnot that are going on that we are hoping to get in front of and to be a part of. But yeah, let me get through this and we'll address questions. Yeah. So, the need, the market, the tech, it's all come together. In corporate, I think we have the old saying where, strategy eats culture, or culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? Well, the timing is everything. And so with COVID, we're coming out of a heightened season of we want to know what's happening with our health now, right? There's more and more people that are really in tune to what's going on with my health. And the best way to do that is know what's going on inside of us as well. So our go-to-market strategy is we're focusing on India right now. We've got some really great traction and we're going there. Although again, this deck is maybe a few weeks old and we just are signing papers. So with this new company, we are going to be actually doing a Bluebird in LA, in UK, and starting with some hospitals in India as well. And, we're going to take it, we're going to expand on the opportunity that we have. I sit on the board of a company called ACHA, and they're looking at 12 countries right now across Latin America. And so we're looking at how do we standardize digital health information. And so we're looking in as well across quite a few countries in Africa as well as Latin America. To serve
everywhere. It's an issue.
Yeah.
Middle East, there's lots going on too.
Absolutely. So, we launched our beta in Q2. We've got people who are not paying. We're testing it. We're testing the heck out of the platform right now. And again, I've already talked about the white label that we're doing some work with in the universities because, believe it or not, our students are still handing in a piece of paper for their immunization records, right? In majority of the schools around the world. My son just finished medical school a year and a half ago, and his last year of school, he had to hand in his immunization still on a piece of paper at a medical school. So it's pretty crazy. I'm gonna skip through these slides because again,
What's
the numbers.
Alternative, you gotta use these people, where are you gonna give that?
It's all handled online. So your information is in the profile and you're gonna connect. So we'll go to university, I'll give you an
Oh, so
example.
that means the person has to have like a smartphone, basically, show their.
No, you don't show anything. You just share your information. So let's say University X signs up with us and they have 55,000 students, right? So what we'll do is that we have a system that we've designed specifically for academia. And so they have that system and we'll go in, we'll do a B2B contract with them. And then we'll do KYC information exchange, right? And so we'll do KYC, we'll take all the information for the students and we'll create an ID for them. So the students come into school, they say, go click on this, they'll download, they have all their information there. And all they have to do is upload their health information in their app instead of, if it's not already. If we don't have, the connection with it from a CVS or from a Walmart or from a whatever, wherever they took their immunizations, but data will get put into your app. Now you've got that data there for any doctor. It's not just school. You got your data to carry around with you at this point, right? We've even talked to border control in some of the countries. When COVID hit, we started talking to border control in India, in Australia, in Thailand, and looking at this to, you have your BIOS Health Pass, because it's called the BIOS Health Pass, right? So you come across and you've got your QR code. It says whether you've been tested, by the way, right? It gives you that information. And if you have location services on, it'll tell you where you've traveled and what the requirements are. Again, I'm going to skip through this, guys, because the financials are really off now based on, and I haven't had a chance, we haven't sat down to really do the new review. I took the valuation off because now we have a completely different valuation based on we'll be in the black very quickly because of the white label company that, like I said, they've got 7 million patients. And so right from the get-go, we'll be in very good shape.
Looking for capital raise?
We are, yeah. So
You didn't tell
2.5
us
million.
How you make money?
Through those.
So people will buy a subscription of the
So
service? Or?
what'll happen is these companies, Shell Oil, for example, right? I was just on the phone with the global CIO of Shell, who I used to work for. And Jay's all over this, right? Because they send people all over the world. They're going to buy it and they're going to give it to their employees. We're talking to Allianz, right? Allianz is one of the largest health companies in the world. So these companies, we want to go B2B2C because we want to do land grab as quickly as possible, right? Because we don't want the Epics of the world to come and say, hey, shake their fists and go, sorry, lady. Judith already told the Congress that there's no problem in interoperability in healthcare. Everybody just needs to have Epic.
You should look at the multinational insurance companies.
Absolutely. Great advice. Yeah. But that's where we want to be. We want to be in that space and playing with those particular folks. So we are looking for capital and I've invested a whole ton of money myself in. I'm vested to this in my mother's honor, and I sold all my shell stock and I'm all in. So I built the platform. I tried to de-risk it. I actually did all the design and all the logic that sits behind it. And there's no better user than yourself, because I know what I want, and I've traveled the world, and I know what I want to be able to have at my fingertips. And so, we get to a point where the EMT will pick you up in a bar that you passed out in, or you fell off the sidewalk or whatever, and they're going to scan your hand in the ambulance, and before you get to the hospital will know exactly what you have and what they need to be prepared for. That's where we're going with
They
this.
have that kind of equipment, they just, at this time, scan your fingerprints.
They might
So
not
there's-
have it today, but they will get it. She is preparing for the future, not for today.
Okay.
So we already have the technology. So we have the device that scans your hand, and it's getting better and better with our software. And we take a scan and we put it directly into the blockchain, by the way. So it doesn't sit on a SQL database or anything else that somebody has a root admin to. It's in a block that nobody can touch, and it's immutable, right? And so, but yeah, that's something that there are some companies that do palm print. I think Langholm has a palm, right? You can pull up information with palm, but again, it's just for their portrait. But it's great. Everybody should at least have that much, right? Today, you think that as much money as the United States spends in healthcare, right? But yeah, so journey ahead. We've got some incredible things. I'm gonna tell you one of the things I'm pretty excited about is the geofencing capability that we're gonna do. So we've been talking to some smart home folks, right? And especially with people that have Alzheimer or dementia, or who's struggling with those types of challenges. We are looking at partnering with a company that looks at movement in your house, right? Whether it has smart devices sitting in your light structure or somewhere else where you can geofence a person inside of a home and alert someone when they are moved outside of that home or whatever. So we're going to start doing that type of work in the future. And of course, the biggest thing is to just start to be to have that open platform on the back end that we can talk to other systems, right? To pull other data in and have your complete record. And again, we don't need 567,233 lines of data, right? We just need the crucial information that's specific to you that a doctor needs to know about. And I built that interface with one of the top ER doctors in the world.
But the rest of the data is available on demand, or you just exclude whatever is not in your phones?
No, we're not pulling all that data in. We're only pulling data in
That you think
that
is reasonably useful.
it's based on, I mean, we've got some pretty significant medical staff that are on as our advisors, and we built this system with them hand in hand, that said, what's the critical information that a doctor really needs to know? Because where I'm going with this is I want to create a universal health record, right? So I've got someone on my staff that is Dr. Derek Yock. I wish he could have been here today. He's in DC dropping his son off at school, first-time university student, but he's been at executive level in the WHO. He was Indra Nooyi's right hand at PepsiCo when they did their whole health policy and whatnot. But he's connected to quite a few governments. And so what we're doing is we're trying to go in at different levels and figure out, what is it? What do we need? What do we need to start talking? Let's start talking about this. And what can one person carry that is good enough, right? Because the EU just passed legislation not long. See, the whole thing is around legislation. Timing is everything, right? COVID changed all of that. The EU just recently passed legislation that says all EU citizens and countries now will be able to share data, right? They want to do that. So they're trying to build a system, and we're trying to get in the door and say, we've got one built. Can we show it to you, right? But they need to be thinking larger, right? Because if there's any most traveled person in the world, it's people from Europe, right? And they go to Asia and they go all over the place, right? Australia. And what happens when they don't have their records there, right? So I'm trying to get people to think bigger
US-based company?
yes, we're US based Delaware B Corp, because we are all about impact. And I'm big on impact, social impact. And I also started a nonprofit company called ICU, because I've been the underdog all of my life. And I have a big heart for, I've done a lot of work in some of the poorest countries in the world, right? And I have seen enough poverty and I've seen enough people suffering that I want to figure out how do we help everybody. So we're going to utilize ICU to do that. I'm going to put money from BIOS into ICU, to be quite honest with you, and the investor should know up front, we're taking 10% of all the proceeds of BIOS every year to start with and put it into ICU, because we're going to go help solve this problem in refugee camps and underserved communities around the world.
There's an event in Italy on October 22nd called Healthware Frontiers of Health. And I'm very friendly with the person who founded
I'd love
it,
to talk to you about that,
Roberto
Michael.
Ascione. And the other thing is, I'm very friendly with someone in India who he didn't speak English. He built a site and it teaches 110 million people in India how to speak English for free.
Yeah, beautiful.
Khanbahali.com.
Excellent. We'll talk.
Yeah.
Because what we're doing with our technology, we looked at GPT-3, which is, the open source translator, right? And so, so what we want to do is we want to, if again, Tokyo, right? If a doctor in Tokyo, if you share your information, he'll actually be able to read it in Japanese, right? And so we're working towards going in that direction. So I don't, but when you said you were there, I'm like, man, I've got to figure out how do I talk to him later on, but let's talk. Yeah, we are looking to hire. I am at that point where we're trying to bring capital in to make very strategic hires, and chief data science is one of the guys that, females, males, whatever, that we want to bring in. I didn't, yeah.
I'm not saying chief data sign off, I'm saying chief data.
Yeah, we do not have one yet. Yeah, but we are looking for that. We're looking for a chief data scientist as well. But I do have a couple of people lined up for the role of on the AI side of things, because we are looking for that to start building the right algorithms, because I don't know your name, but Samir's got a great point, and it's hard, right? What we want, where we want to go, it's hard, right? Where we're at right now, it's just the easiest part of solving the equation, right? Which is at least let me upload my information that I have, right? So I don't have to do it 15 times a year, and people can share it, right? And I don't have to go through that. And I have enough information in there right now to be able to save my life. That's the most important thing to me, right? So,
Mary, I don't know the pricing for the data warehousing, but if you have access to data, just take it all. That's number one. And number two, I think reaching a critical number of patients is the critical piece.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned something in the beginning about
monetizing.
Not for you only, but also for the patient. Can you explain a little bit about that?
So, Robert had a point where he worked with health companies and they are looking to monetize data, right? But what they want to do is they want to bring that money into themselves, into that company, right? Nothing against Robert. I'm just saying there's company, by the way, people do it all the time. It's a huge multi-billion-dollar company out there to sell people's health data. And they're selling it to life science companies and schools or whatever. They're trying to do good stuff with it. I get it. But I don't get to any of that money, right? And the hospitals get it. And why should the hospital have it? It's my data, right? Yep. So we're going to do a pass-through. I am absolutely committed to that. As a matter of fact, my CFO has heart failure every time he hears me talk about this, because I don't care about that money. Yeah, we'll make money. This thing has legs. You talk about UK, 25 pounds per person, right? There's how many millions of people? The EU, we get that deal. There's 457 million people in the EU, $25 a year. You know how much that comes up to? It's well over $1 billion. More than petty cash, Michael. But at the point is that I want you to get that money. We will charge a percentage only what we need to manage the backend system and administration piece of doing all of that. Have the system. But if I could, the best gift in the world out of this whole product for me would be able to give a person sitting in a refugee camp a few $100s a year for their data.
So would you see what is, let's say I'm a Pfizer and I buy the data to do an algorithm and stuff, and I pay you $10 million. You see
I see it
then
going to
that
you.
data is coming from 10,000 patients, so,
Might be coming from 10, it may be come from 10 million patients.
but then the distribution, you'll send them 3 cents, you know, I mean,
No. We'll have more than just one company.
Yeah.
We're not just gonna have a Pfizer. We're gonna have a ton of companies, life companies out there, right? And life science companies out there. There are many of these companies and
Yeah,
they
that's-
spend big bucks.
I know.
Yeah, so it's not 3 cents. It's not one company, it's multiples.
Question, I have probably a list of questions and
Well, we can probably do one-on-one.
Yeah, we can do
somewhere. Yeah.
one-on-one, but-
Probably get
Because
to the
let me
one more.
wrap this up. You go tell me your question though, the one of the million.
In terms of,
He's very deep in that area.
Great.
in terms of the elephants that you must face.
Yes, many.
Along the journey, the Cerners, the Epics, which are the source of record for the majority of hospital systems
Yep.
in the US.
Yep.
As well as many.
Yep.
Yes. You have Cerner who's acquired an insurance company, so you have an insurance sector. And, they also have acquired CVS Health. So there are going to be some major barriers that you're going to have to.
Why do you think, what do you think the barriers are?
I couldn't tell you specifics, we're gonna go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But that's just one piece of it. The other piece of it has to do with cross-border access to data. And I'm speaking from someone who's delivered FICO's first analytic cloud in 11 countries. And the challenges of getting data just from bureaus.
I hear
credit
you.
bureaus in this country.
I hear you, yeah.
Some of those challenges, as well as, consent from patients, for the data.
Yeah.
But, anyhow. we
Yeah.
can have a
So
sidebar, just
I
some
look
things to
forward to
think
that, absolutely. And, believe me, I've thought a lot about this. We've been building this thing for 2 years, right? And I have, like Shell's a small nation, right? And so we have put data in almost every country in the world, okay? And there are huge ramifications and regulations around data and the way we manage data and the way we manage networks and the way we manage security, right? Because I don't know if you know this, but Shell is the #1 financial institute that is not a financial institute. How much money do you think went through their treasury before COVID in 1 year?
$3 trillion.
Over $1 trillion. Yeah. And so I get it. I hear you, man. But data is my life. I've been around data like you. I fell in love with data in the early 90s when I was coding on a mainframe back in the day. And it is just one of those things where, it is going to be the life source for us in the end.
I taught ER diagramming when I was 16.
I love it. So incredible team. You can't read all of that. I'm sorry, but let me just give you the highlights. So Derek Yock is right next to me. So he is my SVP of Global Health and Policy. And Derek's just got an incredible background. He's been in executive in the WHO for many, many years. He's from South Africa. He's done an incredible amount of worked for a lot of different governments. He's on a lot of different boards across many different countries right now. EU being one of them, as I mentioned. And so he joined not long ago and is just fascinated by what we're doing. And yeah, I'm going to just say incredible. Each one of us across there, Dr. Robert Levine, he's over to the right. Each one of us across there have well over 2.5 decades. And Ben was the CISO for Shell, the deputy CISO for Shell. So yeah, whole development team, incredible group in India, very well seasoned, all senior professionals. And there's my info if you want to take it down and get in touch with me. Look forward to chatting with you. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon Hunter, and I am the founder and the CEO of Roog. And Roog is a marketplace for shoppers to discover unique products and services from small businesses in historically underfunded and underserved communities. As you can see here on the screen, I have a few business owners listed here that I've encountered on my journey. Just to give you a brief summary of what we've been working on. So a few small business owners here that you see right here. For example, Alta Alexander in the lower left corner. When I met with her in East Austin, she told me she had recently purchased a marketing package and she was told that she had reached over 1,000 potential new customers. However, they weren't able to tell who those customers were, if they visited her business or her website. And after speaking with her, within 10 minutes, I went to another store and I ran into a young lady at a beauty supply store. And I was telling her about this Black-owned business in the community, and she told me she had never heard of it. And she was less than a mile away from that store. And that's when I realized that there were two pain points. One, where that local business owner wasn't able to connect with local constituents that could identify with the culture or the business, and also those potential customers that couldn't find those businesses that align with them on the current platforms that are out there. And this isn't just a problem in cities like East Austin. Many business owners around the country face these problems. In fact, in 2017, the United States recorded $1.7 trillion in e-commerce sales. And since the pandemic, that's gone up to over $4 trillion. And what has stayed the same is the fact that many business owners who identify with minority group, have a minority identity, still receive less than 8% of that $4 trillion in retail sales in the United States. And that's where we come in. Our solution is a marketplace, like we said, that'll connect those local shoppers to those businesses that are nearby in their city, and even when they travel. Our market opportunity here. So there are approximately, when we did the research, 11 million minority-owned businesses in the United States. And since the pandemic and other things that have happened, it's expected to grow to around 15 million in the coming years. Now, the total addressable market for minority-owned businesses is about $21 billion. And when we look into our beachhead market, which is Texas right now, that's about a $1 billion market alone. Our competition, as you can see, are social media sites, but also business directories. So Facebook and Instagram are your largest ones. They focus on the general business population. Where you focus is on Black-owned, so does Official Black Wall Street. And we have other people in that group like Yelp and Google Local. And where we stand out and what we are building, we will use experience scores instead of 5-star reviews. We have diverse profiles of business owners, and we will incentivize our shoppers through points and rewards and things like that. And so this just gives you an idea of the market that we're entering into and how our approach to support diverse minority-owned businesses gives us a unique vantage point in that market, but also will give us unique data on a marketplace that is truly built with diverse perspectives in mind. Our go-to-market will consist of, search, SEO, sales, marketing, customer acquisition. But most importantly, we know that the weight for our business and in order for us to be successful will be based on our marketing and traction. So our traction to date, we've raised over 50K from friends and family, a total of about 170. The goal is 250,000 to get us to where we are, to where we need to be, which was monetizing the application.
And he just got another round of money from an individual who remains unknown on the Ignite Social Impact.
Yes, we got a nice investment from an individual, but I tried to research, but every profile with the name is blank. So, I have to do a better job of finding them.
Cody couldn't even find them.
I know,
that's a big deal.
That's interesting though.
Cody can find anything.
It is a big deal. So, we've pushed out the beta version of the app, which is still out there. It's kind of closed. We had a total of 800 downloads. And since then, we've had over 80,000 user events in the app. We have over 42,000 views in the app, and we're continuing to grow slowly. What we need to grow faster is more investment. With the developers that we're talking to, within the next 2 iterations, we'll be able to increase business uploads on the platform, expand our reach to a bigger market, and also capture e-commerce purchases. So that goes into our revenue channels. Right now, we've validated consulting services with small business owners in the communities that we're in. But more specifically, we are focusing on validating our pay-per-ad and our in-app purchase. Business owners have already agreed that they were willing to pay 35% on purchases within the platform that we'll capture for them. And then also with the design of our platform, we will have businesses pay to have their small business promoted within our platform. As you can see, like our mission, which is diverse, we have a diverse team of prior business owners, current business owners, startup founders, but many of us, at least 3 of us, went through the commercialization program together. And so we have Jesse, who is head of product, Ibrahim, who helps us with information, Sagan Aklalu, she owned her own startup as well, and a few other people that we have advising us. And they all have unique experiences, not only in brick and mortar retail, but also in e-commerce retail. And I think that's what's going to give us another leg up and a competitive advantage, is that we are getting diverse perspectives from everyone here, right? Sagan is Eritrean, Ibrahim is Nigerian, seekers in the end. And so as we build a product that is designed to be inclusive, we get those different perspectives to refine. So I know we're cut short for time, but if you all have your phone, please scan this QR code. It has as many links as I can put on there to download the app in the Apple App Store, the web app, our social media following, and also a link to the crowdfunding campaign that we're actively on ignitesocialimpact.com. Our goal is to raise 1.06 million. My immediate goal is to reach at least my initial $250,000 goal, which will allow us to continue to develop and expand the app and monetize it within the next 6 months to a year. That's the goal.
So we have a relationship with the Waltons, and now you have a relationship.
And now I have a relationship with the Waltons. Thank you.
I'm Michael Nelson, the CEO of Intrammune Therapeutics. We are a clinical stage biotechnology company developing platform technology for the treatment of food allergies. Our treatment is delivered while a patient brushes their teeth. We were proud to be selected last year as a winning startup at the Innovate Challenge, Children's Health Challenge, and thank the Center for Advancing Innovation for inviting us to the Social Impact Demo Day today. So thank you. For a biotech company, we have relatively low development risk. We have a number of value inflection points coming up. And a comparator was recently acquired for $2.6 billion with a product that very few patients actually want to use. Just to demonstrate the potential size of the market, we are currently raising $45 million. We've kicked off our Series B, but we are in the process of closing on a convertible note. So if there's interest, please reach out to me at mnelson@intrammune.com. Happy to talk to you about it. We are developing treatments because we really believe in our mission. The whole team believes in our mission. We are developing simple, safe, and effective health solutions for individuals suffering with food allergies so that they and their loved ones can live their lives without fear. And this is really important because people who have food allergies, their entire families live in fear. Children are often ostracized. They have to sit at a separate table during lunch. They're bullied. Parents of children with food allergies often have what's equivalent to PTSD. They have clinically higher blood pressure. It's really a very difficult way to go through life. We have a very experienced team. Our team has raised over $8 billion collectively. There's a huge unmet need. As I mentioned before, we're a relatively low risk allergy immunotherapy company. We have global exclusive rights to all of our IP. Our goal is to develop a simple, safe, and efficacious product. We have high expected return on investment. The one company that has ever developed a food allergy immunotherapy was recently acquired for $2.6 billion. Only 1 in 10 patients want to use their product. Allergy and Asthma Network did a survey. 9 out of 10 patients were willing to use our product. And we have multiple opportunities in terms of pipeline, multiple foods. We are raising $45 million, but we are looking to close on a convertible note in the next few weeks. We have a proven leadership team. I won't spend a lot of time on it because we don't have a huge amount of time, but we've been able to attract this team not because we've raised a huge amount of money at this point, but because these people believe in our mission. I will highlight Stuart Lesh. He gets an offer for a new job every week. He's a fantastic addition. Why do we have a chief commercial officer so early in our process? And it's because we want to develop products that patients are going to want to use, that providers are going to want to use, that payers will pay for. And Stuart's been really instrumental in helping us, even with our clinical program, but also developing how we're going to get paid for what we're doing. We've also spent a lot of time on our regulatory and our chemistry and manufacturing. We also have a great team of advisors. I won't go into it, but some of the top names in the space. Food allergies, worldwide, there's over 220 million people with food allergies. 9 foods make up over 90% of food allergies. So our pipeline is laid out in front of us, but our first target is peanut allergy. Peanut allergy just in the United States, just for peanut, is over a $7 billion total addressable market. The one product that's been approved is Has You Eat peanut protein. They're priced at close to $11,000 per year. Payers pay for reduced adverse events. You don't want patients needing to go to the emergency room. About 14% of their patients do need to do that. patients, or payers pay for better adherence. We're brushing your teeth. It's incorporated right into your daily routine. There's 6 million people in the US with peanut allergies. About 1.6 million of them are children. We expect about 700,000 people could eventually go on our product. Each patient on our product, lifetime worth is probably about $100,000. As I mentioned, that's just peanut, just in the US. Outside the US, it might even be a bigger market in Europe. There's other foods, obviously, and we have started working on the pipeline. We actually have a team headed up by Wendy, who is developing our pipeline. What we do is very straightforward. We take the proteins that people are allergic to, we incorporate it into a fully functional toothpaste, and you get your allergy immunotherapy when you brush your teeth. This is really important because we know allergy immunotherapy works if you do it consistently. And the one thing 98% of Americans do every day is brush their teeth. So we have this great product that integrates right into your routine. There's also a whole consumer goods aspect to this. So there's the potential for partnering not just with pharma companies, but with electric toothbrush manufacturers. We could keep track of when you're brushing, how long you're brushing. We could gamify it. And there's a lot of potential partners, also, toothpaste companies. So we're really excited about all the different aspects here. What we do, we know that if you take peanut protein and you deliver it to the area under the tongue, you get near similar efficacy as eating peanut protein, which is oral immunotherapy, the one product that's been approved. Yet we contact about 12 times the surface area. We contact more optimal parts of the mouth. We could get our concentration, our dosing much higher. You spit it out, so you avoid a lot of the systemic adverse events. And of course, it's built right into your routine, so you get that built-in adherence. We are in the middle of our clinical study, or our phase 1/2 study in adults, showing safety and efficacy. We've gone back to the FDA a couple of times and said, can we get more data? Because this is just going so well. To date, we haven't had any severe adverse events. I mentioned 14% of patients on the one product that's been approved end up needing emergency epinephrine. We haven't even seen moderate adverse events. So we're seeing unbelievable safety. Adherence, 99.7% of patients are brushing every day. We're getting really great results. And we are seeing adverse events decrease even as we up the dose every 2 weeks. So we are showing some potential desensitization. This is our timeline. That's the 45 million is to get us about 2.5 years to get us through the end of our phase 2 studies. But we are getting a number of inflection points as we move along. Their company, Aimmune, was the one that was bought for $2.6 billion. Alladapt just raised $119 million. It's another oral immunotherapy, another product that you have to eat. DBV just raised close to $200 million. It's a skin patch. The product's not particularly efficacious. It was always considered the safe route. We actually saw a number of cases of needing epinephrine in their last study. So they're no longer necessarily the safest route. Our goal is to be the easiest to use, the safest, and the most efficacious. We do have global IP through 2034. We are looking to extend that through 2044. 2 families, over 45 patents have issued to date. We've raised in our Series A, which is closed, we raised over $6 million. As I mentioned, our Series B, we've done a huge amount. I'm happy to talk about what we've done with the Series A capital. We still have money in the bank, so we still have some roadway, and what the goals for the phase 2. But in short, it's a revolutionary patent commercial grade toothpaste. It does replace that toothbrushing. We expect long-term efficacy. We have a number of reasons why we think we could be more efficacious than the one product that's out there. High expected return on investment. We've seen unbelievable safety to date. It's built right into your daily routine, and there is the potential for multiple products going forward. So thank you very much, and I'll open it up to questions.